district, this is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the state government code on open meetings, today's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public. As our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Mr. Diaz?
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Present.
Ms. Canoyer?
Present.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton here.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, present.
Renee Pichelle is here, and to my left is the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeanette Ball.
Welcome.
At this time, we will have acknowledgement of visitors. Were there any that signed up, Ms. Holmes?
Yes, we have several.
And I have asked for Dr. Fields to read them all, ma'am, if
Thank
that's
you
okay.
very much. We'll go right ahead, Dr. Fields. Okay, all right, thank you very much. And this time, Dr. Fields, I am going to set the timer.
Oh, yes, ma'am. That might be through my fault and not the fault of the individual who wrote the letter. I apologize ahead of time. Good afternoon, board. I believe that there are 14 letters. I will try and make my way through all of them. First one, do you want me to read the names of the people that they came? Okay.
Yes, please.
First one is from a Lucas Lovelace, world geography teacher at Judson High School. His note starts off, Dr. Ball, I hope this email finds you in good health. First off, I would like to thank you for your dedication to our students, staff, and community at Judson ISD. You have been a blessing since you started here at Judson, and to date, your decisions have been beneficial to all. Under your leadership, I was hired as a teacher, and I must say I absolutely love my job and everything that it entails. The reason for my email today was not only to thank you for your service, but to bring up how concerned I am about the safety of our students and the staff if face-to-face instruction is permitted. Concerns that are based on my personal experience with COVID-19. I was someone who followed social distancing to a T and always took the necessary precautions, but sadly, my efforts were not enough. I contracted COVID-19 in late June and began having symptoms the first week of July. My symptoms were fever, body aches, chills, dry cough, shortness of breath, severe diarrhea, and fatigue. I also lost a total of 20 pounds. Almost a month later, simple day-to-day activities continue to be a challenge. I'm still struggling to recover, which I have already reported to my employee services. Again, safety and health are my biggest concerns with our current situation. I fear that if we were to open our schools too early, that more people would be placed in danger's way. I'm a healthy 31-year-old with no bad habits. And if after a month of fighting this virus, I'm not 100% recovered, what could it potentially do to my colleagues or support staff or our students and families? Additionally, we are all fully aware that we truly do not have the resources and personnel to properly implement the CDC guidelines necessary to avoid these dangers. Therefore, I find it difficult to understand why we would be going back, even being told to teach remotely from our classrooms, when we have the other options for providing instruction. Please make the decision to push back our start date and keep us learning virtually for as long as possible as to provide for by the TEA, so teachers, students, and our families will not continue to suffer from the fear of anxiety and possibly contracting the disease and spreading it to our loved ones. I do not want to see our Judson ISD community ripped apart by this virus. I hope that you will continue to be Judson's knight in shining armor and permit all teachers to work from home until this pandemic is under control. This letter is from Megan Ackridge. It says, Dear Judson ISD Board, I'm a Judson ISD teacher in my 15th year of teaching. Due to moderate and severe asthma and several autoimmune diseases and being the primary caretaker of a disabled spouse, I am respectfully asking you to allow teachers to remote teach from their home. I realize some teachers have no issues with going back to the classroom, but teachers who have underlying health issues like me and are really scared about being around other people after an almost 5-month quarantine, please allow teachers to have the choice of remote teaching in their classroom or remote teaching from home. Please show your support for teachers and their family members who are at high risk for contracting and dying from COVID-19. And do not make teachers have to choose between their health, their family's health, and their job. Next is Rebecca Aguilar, bilingual pre-K teacher. Dr. Ball and all members of the school board, good afternoon. I hope that you and your families are doing well. My name is Rebecca Aguilar, and I'm a bilingual pre-K teacher at Candlewood Elementary and a proud AFT member. I am starting my 17th year of teaching and my 11th year at Jetson ISD as a bilingual teacher at Candlewood Elementary. I come before you today with a concern that I feel should be addressed before the board and Dr. Ball. Last week in a dual language meeting, teachers were informed that all bilingual and dual language teachers will be responsible for teaching both face-to-face and virtual. This comes as a huge surprise because the July 7th special board meeting, this question was addressed by Ms. Jennifer Rodriguez, trustee of Judson Board. Ms. Rodriguez asked if bilingual and dual language elementary teachers would be responsible for both face-to-face and virtual teaching. To which Ms. Cecilia Davis replied, I quote, "We would have a selection of virtual teachers that would just be dedicated to that, as well as teachers that would solely be dedicated to face-to-face. We do understand, and especially in these circumstances of being bilingual, you basically have to just have your one bilingual certified teacher team together with the ESL teacher. So we are considering, depending the results that we get back, like how many parents would sign up for the online version who are enrolled in a bilingual, to have specialized teachers dedicated to that, because bilingual in itself always requires a lot more extra planning simply just because of the nature of translating materials and the nature of dual language framework, where students would have to come in for a specific SLAR versus ELAR lesson, and certain non-negotiables as preview and review of things of that nature so that they would be separate." I apologize for all that. So my question is, what was the change that you now think that bilingual and dual language teachers have to have the time to teach both face-to-face and virtual? After discussing this situation with my fellow bilingual and dual language team, we all have come to the same conclusion, and that is, when are we going to have time to teach virtually once face-to-face instruction starts? Teaching face-to-face will take up all of our contracted time, leaving us no option but to work on virtual teaching after our contract hours. When will we have time to give to our families and the time to recharge and rest? I know that some of you have been educators or are spouses of educators, or have a parent or someone close to you in proximity who's an educator, and can relate and understand to the work devotion that we carry out. Teachers willing to give up so much of their time after contract hours, and now the bilingual, that's 3. Next is Christina Barna, 4th grade teacher at Olympia Elementary. Thank you, Judson ISD board members, for taking time to read my statement. I know that the decision you have made are enormous and have repercussions that are very serious. I've started and restarted this letter several times in a struggle to say what I feel is important while also being respectful. As a teacher, I always want to be a rule follower, a team player, the one that does what is asked of me for my students, my coworkers, my school, and my district. I think that this is part of what makes us teachers. We freely give of ourselves, often to the point that others have to tell us that we're doing too much. So it's very hard to be in a place where I feel that as a teacher, what's being asked of us by the state is just too much. We have the unlucky situation of now not having much of a say in what happens to us and the health and safety of those that we love. The state's reopening plan was a disaster because they opened things back up based on dates, not data, and there was that they were supposed to. When we reached a date, they opened to 50%, then another date they opened to 75%, and then 100%, even though the scientists and the data screamed that it was not safe to do so. As a result, our city became under great attack from the virus, and so many people have unnecessarily died. They died because we followed the date and not the science. Now we sit and being pressured to do the same thing with schools. The data screaming to us that it's not safe to have in-person instruction. Science has proven the rumors that children don't get or spread the disease is false. History will tell us a story one day, and I hope it doesn't include that a great many lives of children and educators were lost because we opened the schools too soon. We have been trained as teachers that all we do is driven by data, and this should be no different. Please allow the data to push back face-to-face instruction and speak for itself. We are begging you to hear our voice. One thing I worry about when we do open face-to-face is that many of our rooms simply do not allow for 6 feet separation in the classes, but not older ones with small classrooms. However, they still are supposed to eat breakfast and lunch in their room. This requires them to take their mask off in close proximity, which is extremely dangerous. It seems that there should be a better plan, such as utilizing the cafeteria, gym, blacktop, etc., in any situation where the students must all remove their mask. Also, during a presentation at the previous board meeting, you said that teachers will still be pulling small groups of 3 and 4 students. However, we're not being given any plexiglass dividers or anything that would protect the students and teachers sitting. There's another paragraph. The gist of what they were saying was completed. You mind? I apologize. Next is Elena Herrera Gonzalez. Dear Judson Independent School District and Board of Trustees and Dr. Ball, as stakeholders in the Judson ISD community, Judson ISD American Federation of Teachers would like to extend a hand to you and your staff. We realize that Judson ISD faces many monumental decisions in regard to the safe reopening of schools in the fall, and we would like to assist in any way possible. The members of AFT have had many conversations, meetings, and brainstorming sessions about school reopening. We are confident that you and your administrators prioritize the health and safety of students. We would like decision makers to remember that, and all the stakeholders when making these, we would like for decision makers to remember all the stakeholders when making these decisions. Judson ISD employees are important stakeholders in the decisions that lie before you. Many teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, bus drivers, administrators, and office staff are waiting nervously for the determinations you will make. Many of these staffs are elderly, suffer from health problems, or live with family members with underlying conditions. We would like to see that Judson ISD employees are considered when school reopening decisions are made. Here are some things to consider. Provide employees with high-risk factors alternate work assignments. Ensure teachers are compensated for working longer days. The workplace environment should have everything necessary to be safe, including but not limited to PPE provided to staff that meets the viral load, and they may come in contact with being in closed spaces for long periods of time. Masks, face shields, disposable gloves. Abundant cleaning supplies to include hand sanitizers, disinfectant wipes or spray, and paper towels, aerosols, and disinfectants. All of these supplies will be provided. All these supplies should be provided and replenished by the district rather than teachers. Sneeze guards and plexiglass dividers for classrooms. Guarantee no position, salary, or benefits are lost from absences relating to COVID-19, including long-term quarantines and/or hospitalizations. Free COVID-19 testing for all employees. The district should create pandemic waivers so that teachers will be allowed to break their contracts for COVID-19 related safety issues. Reconsider clocking in procedures for teachers, as this may cause employees to touch the same surface. Delay in people learning and take the full 8 week of virtual learning as allowed by TEA. Give teachers an option to work from home or have rotating schedules in place where employees could be on campus or on a rotating shift. In the spirit of agreement with Judson ISD's mission to increase student achievement and to leverage the resources of Judson's community to support student success, the Judson AFT encourages board members to review and consider these recommendations as we move forward as a community. Respectfully. Next is Irma Carolina Rubio, art teacher, Karen Wagner High School. Dear Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees and Dr. Ball, as stakeholders in the Judson ISD community, the Judson ISD American Federation of Teachers would like to extend a hand to you and your staff. We realize that Judson ISD faces many, this is the same, no, they shared. This is the same. It's from a different person, same outline. Thanks, buddy. Sorry. Next is Sean Williams, teacher, Olympia Elementary. Dear Dr. Ball, board members, and school board, thank you for the opportunity to present my concerns regarding the upcoming school year. I value your dedication and am appreciative of your service to Judson ISD. I'm writing to request that you consider implementing an extended virtual start to the school year that's based on real-time local health data. The threat of COVID-19 is real, and its ability to sicken and kill those whom we are claiming to keep at the forefront of this debate, our students, should never be downplayed. But the issue is there shouldn't have to be a debate. Teachers who share my viewpoints about delaying a physical opening to school are not trying to shrink or shirk their responsibilities as educators, as some individuals have suggested. Rather, we dearly miss our students and have already been working hard this summer preparing physically in virtual classrooms, attending professional developments, and preparing high-quality lessons. By asking for an extended virtual start to the school year, we're letting you know that we just want to be safe. We want our students to be safe. Often, I see it stated in the district communications that the safety and well-being of students, teachers, and staff are a top priority for Judson ISD. If this is true, then please take advantage of this opportunity to have schools conducted online for the longest time frame legally allowed and possible, and in light of the local health situation. To do otherwise would to send a clear message that the lives of the students, staff, and faculty are expendable at my campus. Our motto is, every student matters, every moment counts. What's ironic in this statement that will be if our district moves forward with the measures that prove the exact opposite, namely considering being face-to-face instruction when our county's COVID cases may still be too high. In such an environment, how can we say that every student matters if we knowingly put them in harm's way every day, placing many more of them in the classroom where we cannot space them 6 feet apart? How can we say every child matters if we can send them into buildings where they will need to sanitize high-use items and common areas after every use, such as restrooms, doorknobs, stairway handrails, and have no practical way to get this done? How can every moment count if we physically send students back too early, knowing the result will be disorienting, interruptive flurry of school openings, sickness, and absences, as well? Was that the alarm? Oh. As well as closures due to, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. As well as closures due to mandatory quarantines each time a student, faculty, and staff member tests positive. How can every moment count if parents' work schedules are upended abruptly due to short closures, leaving them scrambling for childcare that may leave them not able to procure more in the future? And when schools revert back to face-to-face operations, you must know that much instructional time will be lost, as teachers will be engaging the necessary but time-consuming reinforcement and oversight of COVID health protocols. Here's another several paragraphs. You want me to keep going?
No, sir.
Next is Jennifer Lopez, English teacher, Judson High School. Good evening. As a teacher at Judson High School, I want to first say that I'm so grateful to have a school board that's looking out for the best interests of not just staff and students, but the community as a whole. I do not envy the decisions that you have to make, but I admire the great lengths that you are taking to consider what solutions will be best to serve as many people as possible. As educators, we are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs as it applies to learning. In order for people to be ready to learn, their basic needs have to be met. Beginning during spring break, this district did its best to meet students' physiological needs by providing food to families, and I am certain will continue to do so as long as we can. Now you must choose to make decisions that are best for their feelings of safety and security. A student who does not feel safe or secure does not have the emotional foundation they need to focus on learning. Additionally, a teacher who feels that their physical well-being and health of their families is threatened does not have the emotional foundation that they need to focus on building relationships with students or in rigorous, engaging instruction. It is frequently poised that a return to normal is best for the emotional well-being for the security and relationship needs of children. However, education in COVID-19 era is far from the normal. Far from the normal school that children knew. Limited interactions with friends, no sharing of materials in classrooms, rows facing forward instead of in small groups, limited to no group work. The very social approach that many teachers take to engage students during instruction will be absent. In-person instruction during COVID-19 circumstances sound lonely and has been likened by many on social media to prison. Student safety needs are better met at home interacting online with classmates through rigorous lessons than in prison. While everyone is concerned about the mental health of students, many guardians are also concerned about meeting the physiological and security needs of their kids. Schools provide a safe place for their children while they have to go to work to provide for their families. However, reopening schools too soon, inviting outbreak and school closures puts these same guardians in even more difficult situations. One day, work schedules are set, and the next, a COVID-19 outbreak closes schools, causing parents and guardians to call out emergently to stay home with their kids. This inconsistency deals blows to both students and parents' mental and physical well-being, again leaving kids vulnerable and not prepared to learn. In the current COVID-19 and school environment, students are not the only ones who need for physical and emotional safety are not being met. Teachers, counselors, custodians, cafeteria staff, librarians, and nurses and administrators are being asked to report to a building that will harbor a highly contagious, little understood virus. Next is Brianna Andrews, English teacher. Dear Judson ISD School Board, thank you for working tirelessly since March to adapt to the new reality of COVID-19 created. I know that you have lost sleep and peace of mind to meet every change in a way that not only protects students and JISD's employees, but also ensures that our primary purpose, educating students, is met. These choices and adaptations have not always been smooth, popular, pretty, but they felt necessary. When you all made the tough decision to use money from the fund balance to decrease the digital divide of our students face, it was necessary in order to ensure students could equitably learn. When you decided to keep every member in our district employed during the worst financial crisis of our country has faced in decades, it was an honorable decision, even if it meant that employees would not receive their step increase or raise. And when TEA mandated face-to-face learning, you all came up with a three-choice model that tiered or tried to satisfy the conflicting imperatives being released by the state. I'm sure that these tough choices weighed heavily on each of you, and unfortunately, you are at another crossroads. You must make another excruciating choice. You all have to decide when and how school should start. In late May, I would have said that we could start this school year as close to normal as possible. I would have said that a few students in the building would not have been that big of a deal. Teachers would use the numerous tools available to use to bridge the gap that we felt during online learning in the spring, and everything would be magically working out in the fall. people would have followed recommendations from the local health authorities, and San Antonio would be back to normal in time for football and fiesta. Now, the reality and my thinking has drastically changed. San Antonio is in the midst of a terrible surge of a viral crisis. It stands now at 13% of staffed hospitals or beds are available. 13% is available with masks mandated and the closing of bars, rivers, and parks. And measly 13% is available with a significant portion of Bexar County social distancing since March. 13% is available without thousands of students mixing and mingling for hours at school. What happens when we go back? How many members in the JISD family will fill our school buildings, and then those empty beds, how many will fill the hospital hallways when the beds are gone? How many will be turned away when the hospitals are full? How could we be comfortable with any member of our community being compromised by our choices? More research is coming out suggesting that the virus is airborne and that the best way to combat the spread is to minimize contact with other people. There's no way to do this in a high school setting. Keep students socially distanced by 6 feet apart means that I can only... Got it. There were 2 pages left. What? Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I hate to keep bothering you. As soon as she comes.
Ma'am? I think he's trying to let Miss Perez in.
Miss Perez in. There it is. Okay.
I'd like to announce for the record that Ms. Perez has logged on at 1:27.
Okay. Did I start on Brianna Andrews? I'm sorry. I did? Thank you, Ms. McKinney. Vanessa Garza, JISD AFT member. Good afternoon, Dr. Ball and board members of Judson ISD. I appreciate you allowing me to voice my concerns this afternoon. My name is Vanessa Garza. I'm a proud Judson ISD teacher and AFT union member. As you know, teachers and staff, parents, and students are concerned with COVID-19 and the implications it will have on the health and lives of our Judson ISD community. We are also aware of the predicament that the state and federal government have to put our local school districts in. We do not stand with you. We do stand with you and continue to contact the governor, Ken Paxton, TEA Mike Morath, and even our local officials. As the COVID numbers continue to climb and we can see more deaths each day, we ask that you reconsider the plan to opening schools for face-to-face instruction on September 8th. TEA COVID-19 guidelines are changing every day. We could allow for virtual learning for the first 8 weeks of school, and this plan would provide the country some time to see if there is a decrease in COVID-19 cases. What is Judson ISD going to do to keep teachers, staff, and students safe? We cannot allow students and educators to get sick and possibly die because we are being forced to begin in-person instruction before we are truly ready. Children that have gathered in recent days have had COVID cases emerge. We have all heard about the cases in our own children's shelters in San Antonio and summer camps, cases in Florida. We don't want COVID cases to emerge in Judson ISD before students even return. I'm asking you to allow teachers and staff to continue teaching from home or come in under rotating schedules under COVID community spread while the COVID community spread decreases and positivity rate comes down. Most recently, Edgewood ISD announced that students will be remote until October 9th. We are asking you please keep all students and staff safe by planning for remote instruction for 8 weeks. Please require all students to wear face mask coverings in JISD when face-to-face instruction starts. This will ensure protection for both students and teachers. Also, why are teachers being asked to clock in or swipe in? If we are being required to clock in, we need to get paid for all of the extra hours we put in. Please reconsider the clocking in procedure for teachers, as this may cause employees to touch the same surfaces and spread the virus. We ask that you at least, or we ask that you ask at the last board meeting, what would happen if staff members get COVID-19 or get exposed and have to self-quarantine for 14 days? The only answer we got, we could file for CARES Act. If we are required to go back in-person instruction and then the district to support us and take care of us, if a teacher's docked 4 days, that's approximately $800 to $1,000 that would be docked from our pay. Sandra Grogan, English teacher, Judson High School. Dear Judson Independent School Board and Dr. Ball, thank you for your hard work and dedication to our schools and community. As Judson ISD teachers, we are fully aware of how hard you have worked through this difficult and trying time that no one could have anticipated having to face. Please know your efforts are greatly appreciated and have certainly not gone unnoticed by those of us who need you the most. We debated long and hard over how to approach this letter. Should we focus on the health and safety and absurdity of the CDC making safety guidelines easier and cheaper to follow once it became obvious that schools could not possibly follow the real safety measures? Or should we discuss the prevalence of the virus in our community and how obviously false the children are practically immune narrative is? Maybe we should list all of the new information about the airborne nature of the virus and the dangers of crowded, enclosed spaces. Ultimately, we decided to trust that everyone is doing their due diligence and you are completely and utterly aware of the myriad of dangers to everyone involved. So we choose instead to focus on just how badly we, your teachers, need to be our voice right now, our own voice right now. This is a joke, making the rounds on social media that teaching is like being in an abusive relationship, and we also stay with kids. It has, sadly, never been more true. Teachers are being abused. We are being abused by politicians, we're being abused by public perception, and we are being abused by the very system we serve. While this is not necessarily a new situation, it is the first time that this abuse has put our lives and the lives of our families in very preventable danger. Borrowing from a fellow teacher who has been quoted often in the media in regards to this COVID situation, every day we show up to school, teachers are willing to take a bullet for their kids. In this day and age with mass shooters, that's just something that we wake up with. And we understand that it's going to be a part of our job. And I don't think that there's a single person in our classroom full of kids who is not willing to step in front of that door and take that bullet. But now you're asking me to do is take the bullet home to my family. Teachers should not be asked to put their own lives, let alone the lives of their loved ones, in danger when we are completely capable of doing our jobs from home. We desperately need you to be our voice. No one knows better than you that schools cannot perform their primary function without teachers. We're the most valuable resources. Unfortunately, politicians are playing with our lives as if they are disposable resources. Just last week, while speaking in a town hall meeting with the teachers union, Dr. Anthony Fauci explained very plainly how teachers are being used. You're going to actually be a part of the experiment of the learning curve. Huh? It's 4 pages more. Yes, ma'am. Next is Sherry Amaya, parent of Judson High School student. My first question is, during the day when our kids are at school and the school bell rings, how are you going to ensure that our kids day 3 stay 3 to 6 feet apart in the house while changing classes and not congregating? My second question is, at the end of the day when the school is released, how are you going to keep kids from congregating together in groups on school grounds outside of the school door? I live pretty much right across the street and I see it all the time. And since my son goes to Judson High School, I'm very concerned that we don't have the manpower to ensure that our children stay 3 to 6 feet apart at all times while on school property. Next is Anonymous. Good morning. I just wanted to say to the board, thank you all. You are all doing a great job, and while many want to point fingers and blame, know that there are people out here that understand and know that y'all are doing the best that you can given the circumstances. My family and I know that when we return to work and school that our lives do matter to Judson ISD, and we are excited to get back into the classroom even with our new normal. Wearing a mask and washing hands and sanitizing is not an inconvenience, honestly. Working with kids, you should constantly wash your hands anyway and wipe surfaces between use. Again, I'm sorry for any negativity that comes y'all's way. Continue to make Judson ISD a wonderful district and not only work in, but to have our children attend. Thank you.
Dr. Fields, would you please repeat that name?
Anonymous.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
There's actually a name from the email that was sent to me associated with that.
Sarah Cloyd. Is that it? Sarah Cloyd?
Thank you.
This is letter number 14. Andrea Salazar. Yes, I am wondering about freshman orientation. Will there be one for those who decided to go back to school for face-to-face instruction? For Judson and Wagner High School, as well for those who are coming into middle school in the district. Also, my elementary school sent a notice via Facebook that the campus is a CEP campus this year, making breakfast and lunch free for all students. Will this be for all Judson ISD campuses or just my elementary campuses? Or when they go back to face-to-face instruction or during the virtual start as well, both myself and my husband are essential workers. And it would be hard for us to leave work at both times to pick up both meals for our kids. I am happy with being a part of Judson ISD District. Y'all have done a great job keeping us informed with changes and all during this crazy time via text, emails, and automated calls that we have signed up for. Possible mention that as well some parents do not know about these options. Andrea Salazar, Judson ISD parent. And that is all, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, we'll do. Here's my box. This is the germicide that will be in all of the classrooms. So you can just do this and it kills 99.9%. These are gloves that will be in all of the classrooms. Hand sanitizer. And the spray disinfectant.
Yes, definitely.
Miss Betty, this is the last one. Can I see that? The one before. No. I think it's 4 pages long. What's the second to the last? I think it was this.
Miss Marilyn McKinney, 15106 Winged Foot, Selma, Texas.
I don't think there's a germ to be seen here. If they didn't die from the sanitizer, they drowned. I'm speaking to you as just me today, a constituent and an employee. You are faced with a momentous decision. I don't envy you. I think you have shown a good faith effort to try to accommodate all of the stakeholders with the many options you have provided for us. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect employees to show up for work. I think probably this decision has been put forward because the proverbial a few bad apples have spoiled it for the rest of us. I understand that that's probably where that's coming from, and I understand it completely. I think that if people can provide documentation that they are medically fragile or they have someone who is medically fragile within their households, and they provide that documentation, it's not just, oh, I'm afraid, because Lord knows there's enough hysteria out there. I think you have shown that you are putting forth a good faith effort to accommodate those people. I don't think an empty classroom has more germs than H-E-B or Walmart. And based on that, I don't think you're asking anything tremendously hazardous of your employees. Personally, I'm looking forward to the start of school. I have my first 10 weeks already done. But I like being with students, and I signed up to be a face-to-face teacher. And I know there will be some there just to come deal with the crazy fifth grade science teacher, because we do fun things. Again, you have a momentous decision to make, and I don't envy you. I would remind you that if I thought you were going to do something wrong, I would be the first person here to tell you, both as me and as the other hat that I wear. God bless you all.
At this time, we will move on to item 3, consideration of consent items. Item A, consider and take action regarding approving expenditures equal to or greater than $50,000. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the expenditures proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. At this time, we will vote. Good to see you, Ms. Perez, and we'll start with you. Ms. Perez? Can she hear me?
She might be on mute. Someone check her mute button.
We'll go on with Mr. Diaz. Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, aye.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. And Lynette Perez.
I see her mouth wording aye, but we can't hear
Tell
her.
her to put a thumbs up or down. All right, Lynette Perez, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4, discussion, consideration of action items. Consider and take possible action regarding the approval of updating the instructional calendar for the 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. I actually also have a new handout that I'd like a few minutes to pass out.
Yes, ma'am.
I would first like to start off by saying thanks to my team. We have spent so much time discussing different options, and one of the options that we started to look at was the possibility of a different calendar. So the state now requires that students go a certain amount of minutes. I think everybody's familiar with that. It is no longer a number of days the way it used to be. So we started to look at our calendar as to how could we adequately provide support for our teachers and still do a good job instructionally for our students. So throughout the 2020-2021 calendar, we had certain days for PD throughout the school year. So what we put out there I met with ESAC, we met with principals, we met with several different groups of individuals to see what we could do to possibly provide some more support for our teachers. So we took certain days from the calendar that would be PD days and front-loaded them, put them in the front, and allowing opening of schools, which we'll talk about virtually and face-to-face in just a minute, but starting that on August the 24th. Doesn't change the start date, does not lessen the days that students would receive instruction, because all we did is take away those PD days which kids would not have been in school. The change from from Friday when we posted this meeting is we are constantly looking and analyzing things, and a great idea was brought up that this is an election year, and it most likely will be a very large election, and we currently use at a minimum 14 sites. Our school campuses or our offices, we have 14 sites. It could increase because we are usually asked for more. And at that time, we would actually be opening up our buildings to what I would consider strangers or not our staff and students. So I would like to propose this calendar, which actually has a holiday of November the 3rd, for the safety of our staff and our students, that I don't want for the schools and the campuses to be open during election. I do want to encourage people to vote and to do their civic duty, but not at the sake of our staff. So the one I just passed out is the new calendar that I would like to propose to the board to approve, and certainly entertain any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Eaton, Dr. Ball, you know that the governor extended early voting by a week, right?
Yes.
So instead of the 2 weeks, it's going to be 3 weeks of early voting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But a lot of people do wait on that day, and November.
I think this time it's not going to happen that way. I think a lot of people are going to vote early to keep from, being in the lines and stuff. But I mean, I'm just wondering, did you know that?
Yes, ma'am. I just worried that on November the 3rd, there would still be a large crowd of
Yes,
people.
yes, by all means. But
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that it's going to be 3 weeks of early voting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Canoyer.
Thank you. I'm totally in favor of this. It's been a concern for a number of years, I think, about the fact that we have our Raptor system in place to make sure that we control the entrance of everybody coming in and out of the school, and yet on Election Day, we have to let everyone in. And in some of our schools, the facility that's used for the voting is perhaps in the middle of campus or someplace where people could take a wrong turn and go to classrooms. And so as a safety issue, I'm hoping this is something that the calendar committee will consider going forward, and not just for this year, but particularly this year. I think it's safe to do. I also appreciate moving back the virtual start. Unprecedented times call for creative and flexible people. I know that we are never going to please everyone, but in order for us to make sure that our teachers are able to deliver a robust, a rigorous curriculum virtually, we need to make sure that we have support for all those teachers, including the ones who choose to teach face-to-face, because in this day and time, we absolutely have no clue whether we're going to be able to continue with our face-to-face teaching. So every teacher needs to be trained and assisted in what the best practices are for virtual or remote instruction. So I appreciate that you're taking the time to make sure that that happens, and I think in the long run it's going to benefit all our parents and students.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have another question.
Go right ahead.
Dr. Ball, sorry, Ms. Eaton, the 12th of October is Columbus Day. Is that a teacher training day, or that's just a regular school day?
That is just a day off for everybody.
According to this calendar, it's not. That's why I'm asking.
On the new calendar, it doesn't have the 12th as a,
October the 12th, sorry.
yes.
Sorry, I apologize. That is going to be a regular school day.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to ask Dr. Ball, we already have the statistics for the calendar, the option that is recommended for us. Having this day in November off does not change that stat, does it?
I would have to tell you that the one that I'm proposing right now, I did not propose this to vote on, but it has a very small change
Change, correct.
that I don't think the teachers would mind that day. I certainly can't speak for all the teachers, but it's just changing
Yes.
a day.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm not, I want to make clear, I'm not asking them to work an additional
Right.
day or anything like that.
Right. Anyone else?
Essentially, just to clarify, we took the 12th and moved it to November 3rd.
30.
Yeah. So it wasn't like the adjustment, at first I thought the adjustment had been made based on minutes, but that was the adjustment so that we could finish roughly on the same timeline we would have finished.
Right.
And-
It's just
yeah.
a swapping of a day.
Correct.
So
Okay.
students don't even miss any instructional time because
Yeah.
it was normally a
Yeah.
holiday.
And the minutes, that adjustment was made so that we can have 2 weeks of teacher professional development instead of one leading up to the first day of school.
It's really just 4 days, 4 days, because we were already scheduled to start with our teachers on August the 10th, but we were scheduled to start with students on August the 18th. So I took 4 days from the calendar throughout the year, specifically like in January, the 4th and the 5th, took those days. I'm trying to remember, there was the October 30th day, and if somebody else could remind me on the
Yes.
September 25th, thank you.
Got it.
Yep. So
Thank
ju-
you.
Mhm,
Yeah, I
sure.
just wanted to clarify, because I know different districts are doing different things, and like, there's a district my husband works in, they're gonna work longer school days to make the minutes up, and that's not what we're doing.
Right.
Um,
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I'd also like to clarify that we are not starting at a different time than other school districts. Most school districts are starting either on the 18th or the 24th. So I know that the comment was made that Judson ISD is starting so much later, and that's not an accurate statement. We are starting approximately the same time that everybody else is starting. Most school districts are starting on either the 18th or the 24th. Of August.
Of
Of August. No, ma'am. Virtual, yes, yes.
So with this later start date, this is Ms. King, so with this later start date, so you've already pulled out those extra 4 days from the calendar that was already in, and so it looks like the end date is pretty much the same.
Yes, ma'am. It stayed exactly the same.
Okay.
It did. Our end date did not change. We felt that was very important. We did propose a calendar that did have a much longer end
Yeah,
date.
but nobody wants to start late and end late.
Yes. I did give the
Yeah,
staff.
you don't want to go till June the 10th.
Yep. And for me, there were, being very transparent, there were some individuals that really wanted to start after Labor Day, but that pushed that back till June.
Late June.
So I gave everybody the option. So I just bring to the board the one that has the most votes, and then us as staff members, we make it work.
Nice, thank you.
But this goes more with the pie chart that we received, because Ms. Ms. Wolf sent out the Friday notes,
Yeah, I did. Yes,
and we had the calendar, the pie chart, the
Ye-
results of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
survey,
Yes.
and it was we received the most votes.
Yes.
So this really matches up.
Yes, it does. Yes. Mhm. Oh, you couldn't hear me, or Ms. Eaton? They couldn't hear you. Could you please repeat that?
I'm sorry. I was just letting Dr. Ball know that Ms. Rose did send out with the Friday notes a copy of this calendar and the results of the surveys that were sent to the teachers and parents. And the second choice, this calendar matches up with it. So, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
If there's no other discussion, then we'll vote on this. We'll start again. I'll try it again with Ms. Perez, and if you cannot.
I'm sorry, we don't have a motion yet.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
I
Thank
will,
you.
I will move that we approve the calendar as presented by Dr. Ball.
Second.
And there's a second. It has been moved and seconded. If Ms. Perez can't hear, just give us a thumbs up or down.
I can hear, you just
Okay,
can't hear me.
oh, good, we can hear you.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
start with you, Ms. Perez.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Is it my phone? I'm so sorry. Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, aye.
Ms. Eaton?
I'm sorry, I just got one little question before I vote.
Ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
so we're gonna start virtual on the 18th.
We are
The-
going to
the
start.
students
Wait.
will start on the 24th.
Okay, hold on, I'm
So at this time, what I'm asking the board to do is just to approve the calendar. I'm not ready, the next agenda item is to
okay.
talk about the virtual and
Okay,
face-to-face.
Deborah Eaton, aye. Because then my question will be answered.
Yes.
Okay.
And I need to let you know something.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, because when he was reading this, he kept saying we. I was wondering why. Look at this. This is not from one person. This is from 70 teachers.
Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying? That's why I wanted to see it.
Okay.
Because then all of them need to be listed as.
Okay. If you would like for us to read that, the name
No,
aloud? Okay.
no. It's just that when he was reading, okay, hold on.
We're now in the process of voting. Yes, we did. It has been moved and voted unanimously that we will choose option 2.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Ms. Shaw's vote. Did you vote?
Oh,
Ms.
I am
Shaw?
sorry. Yes, ma'am. I voted aye.
Thank you, ma'am.
It is unanimous vote. We have chosen option 2, the recommendation of option 2.
Ms. Bashaw,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, I asked Dr. Fields to see this second to the last concern that he was reading, and I picked up on, he kept saying "we," and I was trying to figure out why, and now I took it and I'm looking at it, it's from 70 different teachers. So I want to make sure that it gets put in the record so that they can be listed. They're listed in here by name and what school they're from, just so you know.
Thank you. Item B, consider and take possible action regarding approval of Operation Connectivity interlocal agreement with Region 4 Education Service Center for technology purposes. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the Operation Connectivity Interlocal Agreement with Region 4 Education Service Center for technology purchases as proposed.
I second it. Dr. Ball?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask Mr. Atkins to come up. We are working with Region 4 for a proposal, so I know he has a lot of information.
Yes, ma'am. The state of Texas, TEA, got together and they have gone out, and they have worked with Region 4 to go out and do bulk purchasing of Chromebooks, hotspots, different things that districts are needing that they're having a hard time getting. They got really good pricing, and they are getting priority shipping. And we say priority shipping, it's still 10 to 16 weeks to get a Chromebook. But they're getting put at the front of the line because it's so much. And so we were responsible for 50% of the cost, and the state of Texas is picking up an additional 50% of the cost. Yes, ma'am.
How will this impact the item that we approved a couple of meetings ago around the purchase of Chromebooks? Was this factored into that budget when we made it, or?
This was not. Nobody knew this was coming. There is a reimbursement program that's supposed to follow this, but they wanted to get this out first. So we're going to be interested in seeing what that is to see if that might be able to reimburse us for some of the previous purchases we made. But this is just purchasing additional. Again, they probably won't get here till next spring. but it would put us in a place to be ready to start the additional next school year.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I will start then with Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez?
Lynette Perez, aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafael Diaz, aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item C we'll take care of in closed session, and we'll move on to item 5. Discussion items, reports, discussion return to learn plan for elementary and secondary students. Dr. Ball?
Yes, give me just a second to load the PowerPoint. I do have the first slide myself, so if somebody could just pull it up for me, that would be awesome.
Should be on the desktop, correct?
Betty, can I have some hand sanitizer because oh, thank you. Yes, I found, thank you. Okay, so about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we were sitting here and we were talking about our different options. So at that time, I came to the board and I said we would have 3 options. We were one of the very first ones that actually shared that information. It was our face-to-face, our virtual, and then the hybrid. That was about 3 weeks ago, give or take, and a lot of stuff has happened and has changed since then. So we were very excited to share that information and proud to be one of the first ones, and we had all that information on our website. Then, as all of y'all know, then things happened. The Attorney General sent out a letter, the mayor sent out a letter, the commissioner shared some stuff, so everything changed. So as of right now, this is the information that we'd like to share with you. So we pull up the first slide. This is currently our proposed plan. What I want everybody to keep in mind, and this is not just for the board, but also for anybody that's watching, is all of this could change. We are constantly monitoring things. So right now, our proposal is August 10th through the 14th. That first week is our PD week. Our second week of PD is August 17th through the 21st. In those 2 weeks, there's built-in teacher work days, convocation is built in there, campus PD is built in there, and also district PD. So that PD would be, our district PD. Then we would start with the students on August the 24th. August the 24th, our recommendation is to start completely virtual. Again, guesstimating and making the best predictions, we would go all the way to September the 4th, virtual. Then September the 8th, which is right after Labor Day, through September the 25th, we would continue with virtual with a caveat of what I am calling safe haven. I'm going to ask Nicole if you could send this PowerPoint to the board, because I see all of them feverishly taking notes, and I feel so bad. So we will send this to you. Can still take notes all you want, but we will make sure that you have this. We will definitely make sure you have this. So let's talk a little bit about the safe haven. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So with that, am I imagining teachers sitting in their individual classrooms, they're logging on to Zoom, and they're having their PD through some sort of platform?
Yes. In the classroom. Yes. And go ahead.
It's not everybody sitting in the library or using the cafeteria.
No.
It's like
Right. So we have stopped.
Repeat it, because I could not hear the question.
So sorry. What I asked was if, so the PD days that are going to be virtual but on campus, I was clarifying if the teachers are going to be sitting in their individual classrooms and logging on to a video conferencing system such as Zoom to engage in the PD. It's not going to be like in the cafeteria or the library or something.
Ms. Rodriguez, but I do want to clarify because I know that everybody listens to my words so carefully. There will be the case where in a small group, I'll give an example, maybe 6 English teachers would, and this is an example, 6 teachers, I better not say English because 6 teachers could come together in the library, in the cafeteria, in a large space where they would social distance, wear their mask, and plan together. So there could be the possibility, but there will be no more large meetings such as a faculty meeting. I'll give the example of our admin summit. We had over 100 people attend. It was all virtual. Just yesterday, we had a principals meeting. We had over 72 principals, directors, specialists, and it was all virtual. So the days of us coming together for a meeting or for planning, those are gone for right now. Don't know when we'll bring those back. But there could be the possibility that for planning purposes, there would be a small group that comes together that would...
And those small groups, would that be by the choice of the teachers? Like we're choosing to have this small group?
It would probably be a little bit of both.
Okay.
There would probably be some circumstances that would lead us to say, okay, this group of special ed teachers or this group of speech pathologists or this group of bilingual ELAR teachers need to work together to figure out whatever the case may be. We will be strongly trying to do everything virtually, but if there's especially if they want to come together and they can keep themselves apart, we might be doing that.
Okay.
So going back, other questions?
No, just
Okay.
clarity on safe haven.
Yes, ma'am. So going back to the safe haven, we realize that there are some students that truly need us. So what I mean by the safe haven group would be special ed students. We know that some special ed students truly need a routine and virtual learning doesn't work for them. We also know that there are many families that are first responders and they're working long hours or during the day and they can't be the teacher for their child. We know that there are some students that are left alone for various reasons. So we feel that in order to do the right thing is to bring back those students. So we would be calling that our safe haven. Again, we would monitor, but if possible, we would try to bring them back on September the 8th. We keep on going with, oh yes ma'am. No, that's perfectly fine.
So on the safe haven, again, families would have the option to keep their children at home, but if they want to, we're not mandating that any child comes to
No,
school
ma'am.
in person.
At no time are we ever going to mandate. So great question. So we keep monitoring situations. Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Ball, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying.
Okay.
And I do understand. But if that is left as an option, how are we going to control the numbers to know how many to expect so we'll know how it's going to affect the bus routes and who needs to be picked up and not picked up? And how are we going to control that type of scenario?
So one way that we're going to control that is there's going to be an electronic commitment form that goes out. And in that electronic form, we have a part listed about safe haven and gives the different criteria in regards to what classifies that. So then we can have input from the families out there that right now need a place for their child to go.
After Labor Day.
after Labor Day.
And I know we discussed this quite some time back about the temperature machines that Amazon uses. Did we get anywhere with that, or?
Yes, so what we are going to do is a safety checklist, but we will not be taking the temperatures of our students.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk.
And I think if I might, Dr. Ball, I think somewhat related to the question Ms. Eaton just asked is that if they commit to the safe haven, are they then obligated to stay with that particular schedule versus, my concern is that people might choose remote and then they do in person and they start going back and forth. What are we going to require as far as if they commit to a certain option, how long they have to remain with that option?
Right, so what we're sharing with the parents is that we would like for them to commit to their option that they select for that period of time. But we also know that we are going to have to be very flexible because just as things are changing for us on a regular basis, they're changing for families on a regular basis. So several things could happen. One thing that could happen is that parents see how rigorous, how robust, and how engaging our virtual lessons are, and they choose to continue to stay virtual. The other thing that could happen is that they start virtually because maybe they were laid off or didn't have a job, and they start virtually because they can be there for their child at home. They get a job, and now they need a place for their child to come. So we know that we have to be very flexible, and things are changing for the families as quickly as they are changing for us.
Thank you.
And we also ask our families to realize that things can change for us, meaning that something could happen, not that we want it to, but that the numbers really rise or that pandemic worsens. We might have to say, sorry, we can't do the safe haven. Sorry, we can't do the 2 instructional options on September the 28th. So it really goes both ways in regards to us realizing we have to be very flexible and the families also realizing that they have to be very flexible. The staff is going to give a lot of information about lots of specifics, but I also want to just say a few more things, and then the staff will get into the very specifics about each one of these. So the possibility of September the 28th brings about the possibility that we could start with 2 instructional options, the face-to-face and the virtual. So at this time, that's a proposed date, but we have to wait and see. But I think Ms. Eaton had a question for me. Oh, you see my face? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I thought the mask was hiding it.
It's okay, ma'am.
This 2 instructional option.
Yes, ma'am.
Face-to-face and virtual. How exactly does that work?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Ms. Davis is. Yes. But before she starts on that part, just any questions or clarification on this? This is what we are trying to do to gradually, provide steps in regards to starting. Again, I just want to remind everybody, these are tentative dates. We are constantly monitoring and looking and seeing what the numbers look like. This is an effort to try to meet the needs of as many people as possible because we understand some families do not want to send their children back ever, at least for now, and that's okay. So they will have the opportunity to go virtual. We also understand that families also need us for various reasons, whether it's special ed students, whether it's for working, whatever the case is, we also want to provide for them. So in regards to this, the staff is going to get very specific in just a minute, but in regards to these dates or any question? No? Okay. So then the good stuff is going to be brought to you by Ceci.
And members of the senior staff. Good afternoon, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Ball. The rest of the senior staff is going to share with you some highlights of our Return to Learn plan, and then of course we can answer any questions. Our Return to Learn plan is actually broken down into 2 sections. The first section that I'm going to discuss with you, as well as Ms. Robinson, is the instructional plan section. We are required to submit an instructional plan to TEA that highlights exactly how our virtual learning is going to work. We've termed our virtual learning plan the J Learning at Home program, so you'll often hear me say that word. The other part of our Return to Learn Back to School guidance document talks about operational procedures. Masks, what are we going to do in case of an emergency, symptoms, exposure, and that will be shared later on by Dr. Fields and Mr. Atkins. So first, let's talk a little bit about the instructional plan and how our instructional models, which include face-to-face as well as virtual asynchronous plan, is working. So first, I want to remind you all that our J Learning at Home virtual remote learning program is different from what all of our families experienced in March. Recall that in March it was an emergency situation and we did our best to provide students instruction remotely as well as provide instructional packets for students or children that did not have access to Wi-Fi connectivity. Well, now we've made some major enhancements. I'm going to highlight some of those. First of all, through the generosity of our board, our students are going to receive a one-to-one device. This will ensure that the students who select J Learning at Home will have a personal device, unlike in the fall where we only handed one device per family. And this is because we have students in 3rd grade, we have students in 4th grade, we might have students in different grade levels within the same household, and every student needs to access instruction every single day. Secondly, we understand that some families may not have Wi-Fi connectivity, so what are we doing to help with that? Well, our technology program is working on installing elementary antennas for Wi-Fi at our elementary campuses. And we chose elementary campuses because those are in closest proximity to most homes. But another thing that we discussed is placing Wi-Fi in some buses and then strategically placing them across the district in areas where we know there is poor connectivity. So those are 2 things that we're doing in addition to providing hotspots through the purchase of special programs for students that may need it. So there are 3 things that we're doing there to ensure that our students have Wi-Fi connectivity. The other thing, last year, we started our year working with 1 gigabyte of bandwidth. And so with that, we were still able to do plenty, but of course we encountered issues now and then. And so what we are doing is our technology department we've increased from 1. Right before COVID broke out, we had moved to 10, and for this school year, we're working on 20 gigabytes of bandwidth. And this will ensure that our synchronous live sessions can operate when we're looking across the district. The other thing that we're doing, in addition to many others, and you can read the entirety of the plan online, 20 some odd pages, but I do want to highlight one thing is for our parents, and that's the Parent Online Academy. And so what we're doing is all of our directors and coordinators and specialists are working on providing sessions, webinars at the weeknights, as well as at least 2 Saturday webinars for our parents. What you're seeing up here is the schedule of events for our Online Parent Academy just for August. And so when parents want to know, okay, how do I access Canvas? What is Canvas? How's my child going to get online? How's my child going to access? How can I help my child set up a learning environment at home? So All that and more will be offered through our online parent academy. So what you see here is August. You can also access it in a calendar format. But you will see this being updated continuously. We have the collaboration of all of our directors, special ed department, bilingual department, our core content areas, so that we can offer sessions that we know parents would be interested in to support J-learning at home. So these are just the enhancements that we've made to the program for virtual learning. Of course, students who select the face-to-face option would come to school once we're allowed to do that and receive face-to-face instruction from their teachers. You heard me say the word LMS, or you heard me say LMS, Learning Management System, earlier. What does that mean, and which LMS did Judson select? So, through the virtual options, our TEA has mandated that we use a learning management system to track our student engagement and progress. For Judson, we have selected Canvas, and that is I'll refer to LMS moving forward. And the reason that we selected Canvas is for a variety of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, we understand that remote learning is new for all of us across the nation, across the world. And so with it being hard enough as something new, we need to have a one-stop shop for our students to get their learning, for our parents to see the progress of the students, for teachers and staff to place all of their instructional material, build their lessons, and be able to have a collaborative learning environment. Because what one teacher creates, they may want to share it with another teacher across the district. And Canvas offers all of that. So an LMS allows everybody to come on. It's a one-stop shop, and you can get everything from there. An LMS brings all of the stakeholders together, and it also provides easy access to grading, as well as that's how we keep track of attendance. I'll talk a little bit more about how TEA defines student attendance and student academic progress in just a few slides. Commitment survey. So, at least 10 school days before we begin, we need to send out a commitment survey to our parents. We actually sent them a survey about a month ago to see where parents' thoughts were. Are you planning on sending kids back face-to-face? Are you planning on keeping them at home for virtual learning? But TA requires that we send the final commitment survey to parents 10 days before school begins. And so we're going to be sending out the survey on Monday, August 10th, and we're going to be collecting some information from them, which includes which instructional model are you selecting, face-to-face or virtual, with the understanding and knowing that, yes, parents can change their mind. We encourage them to select a model for 9 weeks, but we understand that we need to be flexible. A director earlier said, during this time, if we are not flexible, we're going to break. And I keep that in my mind as we make our decisions. And so in this commitment survey, we're also going to ask just confirmation on buses, child nutrition, what type of special programs is your child enrolled in. And so we're going to gather this final information so that each campus can finalize their schedules and be able to assign teachers with the understanding of how many students are going to be face-to-face and how many students they'll be accessing remotely. And that's our commitment survey, which will go out on Monday, August 10th. So student engagement, specifically for students that have selected the virtual learning option, and with the understanding that we are all beginning with virtual learning, we ask parents to understand the commitment to that and what student engagement truly is. So through Canvas, TA has defined that a student must show daily progress, daily academic progress. And that is defined by the examples that you see here. Submitting a daily checkpoint, and that can be something as easy as a quick formative assessment of understanding. It could be as quick as one question, or one open-ended response. That's the daily checkpoint for attendance purpose. But a student can also show academic progress by moving along further in their module, in their electronic module, by submitting an assignment through Canvas. And then again, parents can get all of these notifications so they can track their student progress too. And then, of course, through teacher and student interactions. And those teacher-student interactions can look like whole group instruction through live virtual Zoom, Google Meet, any type of video conferencing. It can be that a teacher specifically looks at the data and realizes that a student may need additional support and offers them live virtual tutoring via a video conference or a small group setting. So just like we would in a face-to-face setting, except that we're going to do it through a video conferencing format. And that's how students demonstrate engagement and show academic progress in our learning environment.
Miss, can I also ask, will that also be a way of taking attendance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is exactly how we would do that.
Another question I have, is it like they must do one of these three things or all three of these things?
One of these.
Okay.
Thank you. Either or. Or. Okay. And so another part of our instructional plan that we need to submit to TEA are district instructional schedule samples. As a district, we have opted to show time blocks. So the district samples that we're attaching to our instructional plan are time blocks. And the reason that we decided this is because every campus has a different amount of personnel for instructional support, whether it be RTI teachers, special ed co-teachers, dual language teachers, and just instructional paras. And so we understand more than ever that our students need that additional teacher in the class, in the virtual classroom. So what we did is we are using these samples, district samples, to outline the district parameters and expectations for time blocks on, for example, a 90-minute math block, a 120-minute ELAR block in different grade levels. But also, you will see that it's even color-coded, and the green shows the times that students would be engaged in asynchronous instruction. Reminder, asynchronous instruction means that the student can engage on their own time, self-pace, regulate, monitor themselves. And then in orange, which appears as dark orange up there, would be times of both asynchronous or synchronous instruction for students. And then, of course, white time is individual lunch and rest time. Here you have a kindergarten sample schedule, again, outlining the district parameters and expectations, but each campus will be required then, based on their master schedule and on their staff, to modify this to reflect time. So they would put 7:45 a.m., and they might actually begin with a 30-minute literacy activity per grade level. So the expectations are outlined here. The campus would create it based on their staff, based on their resources. And so these, another thing to point out is that for elementary, even in the asynchronous plan, TEA says that we need to have 3 hours of core content area instruction. We definitely exceed that, but they also say, and it must reflect at least the time that they would spend during the day in school. So we definitely meet the core content area time, as well as this schedule reflects the time schedule that they would conduct normal activities in school, with times for independent blocks, so they're not logged onto the computer all day. They can still have their blocks of independent time. But this time around, as opposed to in March, there's set times for teachers to teach and guide and help and be there present through the computer for our students. And so this shows the elementary. Now I will have Ms. Rebecca Robinson is going to discuss the secondary schedules.
Before you start, Ms. Robinson, I just wanted to give an example. We, sorry, we are giving the teachers this, and correct me, of course, Ms. Davis, if I'm wrong, we're giving the teachers the ability to create their own schedule. So I know that this will probably be one of the times where they might want to come together, like I was mentioning, you know, socially distanced, so they could all agree and help each other out on the time. So these are, again, I just want to share sample schedules, because we, again, want to give that ability to the teachers to be able to do that. So those are some of the examples that we are providing them, and then they will be able to create.
And Dr. Ball, at this time, teachers don't have their classes yet, right? They don't know what students are going to be in their classes? Not,
No.
yeah, okay.
They won't have it until we have the commitment form. And
Okay.
so as soon as we send
So,
it out on
okay,
Monday,
we
we
still
start
got
receiving
a
that.
couple more
and they'll
weeks
be able to
before
do-
parents are going to do that very last okay, thank you.
Correct, correct. And by law, we have to do that commitment form 2 weeks prior, so we're right on target. And so at the secondary level, it looks a little bit different, because you know that we go more by departmental situations. And so we'll have the ELAR block, which will be 110 minutes and 55 minutes for 8th grade. And so kind of the way that through blended learning, I don't know if you're aware that our middle schools have done a lot of work on blended learning this summer. And so they started actually in June with the project. And so part of the blended learning of how do I teach a whole group, but I really concentrate on smaller groups, and breaking up, you know, the kids so that they're doing different activities at different times. And the teacher will rotate between the activities, and those are the ones that we call the breakout rooms under Zoom, okay? So basically, they're going to start with a mini lesson. They'll go through their guided practice, and then they'll go through an independent practice. Part of that guided practice is where they'll break into stations, because you'll see that they'll say digital content station. So it'll actually divide the kids into different activities, and the teacher is going to rotate with the kids as they provide that lesson. And then the kids will have that time, just like on asynchronous, to be able to do some independent practice that they can do on their own without the teacher guidance. And then they'll come back into the classroom, and then they'll finish up with a future ready skill. And so basically, that's how we're setting up our middle schools. And as you'll notice straight down the line, we're going with 55-minute periods, because that is what we have. And then at the very end, we do have the enrichment programs, the gifted and talented. That's all going to be provided by the teacher through differentiation in the classroom, and again through blended learning activities. Dyslexia is going to be addressed in the classroom, and also through station activities at the middle school. ESL again will be, and remember we have the ELA, which is the new course that we started last year. And so they're going to be in shelter teams classroom instruction, and again they'll have the station activities. The electives, we'll start providing the electives, and some of it will be synchronous and some of it will be asynchronous. Teachers will have office hours at the beginning of when I'm looking at the schedules right now, they have office hours at the beginning in the morning, and they also have office hours in the afternoon. So if kids need to come in, you know, virtually, because they need to have a conversation with the teacher, or parent needs to have a conversation with teacher, they have those opportunities in the morning. They have, again, those opportunities in the afternoon. So that's basically how we're doing the middle school. High school is a little different, because as you know, we have the 5x5, and so we have the 275s, one in the first period and the other one in the 5th period. And so again, we're basically starting with some tutorials and conference times. That's kind of how we're setting it up. Students and parents will have that ability to contact the teachers in case they don't understand part of the lesson, or they need to have a conversation. Then they will have also those opportunities. The 75-minute blocks, again, it's going to start with the warm-up. And at the high school, we practice the I do, we do, you do concept. And so basically that is how they're going to be able to do it. So the teacher will start with a short lesson as to what the concept is, and then they're going to go ahead and move into the we do. And then the we do is where they'll actually go into the breakout rooms, into Zoom rooms, into the smaller groups, and then teacher will rotate around the different rooms. And then the last thing that they'll have is the independent, and again, that independent piece is going to be the asynchronous portion of it. And so basically the same concept is on the 90-minute. We follow the same thing. It's just a little bit longer, just because that's the kind of basically where the core subject areas are following. We do have the lunch, and then we do have tutorials and conference times, PLC and credit recovery. All of that is within the schedule because we understand that kids are still behind, you know, trying to catch up with credit recovery. So we will offer those kids those opportunities to be able to sign on and be able to do that. We also are offering some tutorials so that if kids feel that they need to come back and get an extra piece of the lesson they didn't quite understand, then they'll have that capability as well too. And teachers will have virtual office hours, so at any time that kids need to contact the teacher or the parents need to contact the teachers will be available. And basically that concludes the schedule piece of it.
This is, Ms. Robinson, this is the virtual schedule, right?
Yes, ma'am. And even if we go to face-to-face, we're pretty much going to be able to do that.
Okay, and so if we go face-to-face, like I didn't notice at lunch, when do the teachers get their lunch?
They'll rotate in and out. They have staff that'll rotate in and out. And so different campuses are handling it differently, and I'm going to wait for Dr. Fields to...
Oh, he's going to address that? Okay,
yes,
okay.
ma'am.
I'll wait.
Yes,
I got
because
some
different
questions.
campuses have different plans on how we're going to do this.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
But Ms. Eaton, I also want to guarantee that we are not taking away teachers' conference periods or their lunchtime. So within these schedules, whether, you know, once we do start, the teachers will still have their lunchtime and their conference period. Thank you.
So Dr. Ball, just to make it clear for everyone, parents should expect their students to be engaged like they would be for a full day at school when they're doing remote or virtual learning. So it's not just going to be a 3-hour commitment that they can do in the evening when the parents are home, but it's going to be more like replicating a full school day while they're learning at home.
Yes, ma'am. And that's why we did some of the training, so the teachers would learn ways to still engage the student through the virtual experience. So I know that Ceci knows all the different types of trainings. So if you want to mention some, they're there? Okay, they're coming. Okay, so she'll mention.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone.
Absolutely.
I had a question too.
Sure.
I know that there's a lot of parents that want this level of clarity for their children, and so you know, for the families that I know that speak English, I would honestly recommend they watch the recording of this meeting to get this level of clarity. I'm assuming all of this material is ready to go in Spanish as well?
It will be. So just so you know a little bit, today after this meeting, senior staff is meeting just to kind of go over what we talk about here. Then we have our principal meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. I did a video today to put out with all this information. The principals have also been tasked to develop their very own individual plan, something similar to what Dr. Fields will be showing in a minute that's district-wide, but the principals will get very specific to their campus, and all of that is to be put out there. And then, so we plan to put this out Friday, so then parents could look at it during the weekend and Monday, and then Tuesday, the August 11th, hold a virtual town hall meeting with myself and senior staff to answer questions. And we'll probably be doing those quite often because more questions will come about and so much misinformation happens. So we'll probably be doing those quite often.
And then to the question of...
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Would you mind sending us those links?
No, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. We'll send those to you. Mm-hmm.
And then the materials, the written materials and the videos will have Spanish captioning or Spanish translation as well?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so then we come to the material design. And so part of the questions that have been coming up, and I think this is just a real important piece of it, is a lot of questions are in special ed. Parents have a lot of questions about special ed. And so, let me find my picture again. It disappeared. Okay, here we go again. And so, special ed has, and I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, I'm gonna let Ceci work with that. So special ed has developed a continuing plan so that people, our parents have a better understanding of what is it that we're offering. And so the first part of it, as you know, that Judson offers two different instructional modalities or deliveries. You know, one of them is the instructional support model, and that's the piece that when we talk about inclusion and resource, that's the piece that we're talking about. And then we also offer a lot of co-teaching. And so our district has moved forward on co-teaching, and so a lot of our campuses are doing those particular pieces. In setting up these things, it's hard to sometimes answer parents because we don't know, and they'll ask us specific questions about, you know, how is my child going to receive their service or whatever. It's difficult to answer the question because I have to look specifically at the IEP, and then based on the IEP, whatever it says, then that's how the services will be provided. So whatever it says on the individual education plan for every single student, that is how we're going to offer the services. And so it's not a general answer of, okay, everybody's going to receive this, because not everybody is on the same plan. And so I have to, our special ed teachers and our regular teachers have to look at every single IEP, and then based on the IEP, that's how we're going to offer those services. And so if the student is in a special ed situation, again, it'll go back to the IEP, and then the general teacher and the special ed teacher will provide those accommodations and modifications to the student through remote learning, or if they come face-to-face, then we'll provide those face-to-face. For now, because we are starting with remote learning, then that is how we're going to address each of the students. There's going to be some times that we have co-teaching, and you'll see a general teacher, a general ed teacher, and a co-teacher in the same classroom. And so, and the only thing that'll happen differently is as they go through their lesson, when it's time for them to break into groups, the special ed teacher, the co-ed teacher, will take the special ed group and will work with those particular students in a small breakout room. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. We also have our behavior, academic and curriculum, which we call our back unit. And so those, again, are going to be provided the same instructional pieces just as our special ed students are, our non-disabled students are. They'll offer, everything, again, just the way the IEP says. For students that are in our early childhood special education, our life skills, our Apple, they use a different program. And so we have purchased two different programs for them to make it where we're more responsible for their needs. And so the first one that we're doing is Visual. And so on Visual, it's actually a data tracking and assessment program. And so what that does is basically it'll track the students and their progress as they're working through the curriculum. Then we also have something that we call the ULS. Okay, the ULS is a unique learning system, and it has actually an alternative curriculum, because those children that are sometimes in life skills, they cannot follow our regular TEKS curriculum, so we have to offer them an alternative curriculum. And so because we do, then we're offering them some additional resources. And so those are two things that we have purchased in order to make that happen for our special ed students. Everything is going to be done through Canvas, just like Ceci has been talking about Canvas. The kids will go through Canvas. We will record their attendance. We will record their progress monitoring, their assignments. Everything will go through Canvas, just like we do with our regular students. There are a lot of digital tools that are out there. If you will check our special ed department website, we are posting as fast as we can. And just providing all the digital resources that are out there. We have a lot of things for our parents, and we actually have started some training as well on how do you use Visual, how do you use the URL, and so we're having some staff development for our parents so that we can educate them on how to use those particular software, and that way the parents feel a little bit more comfortable, with them. Then we'll go to And again, all the accommodations will be done. We're trying to also do some visual manipulatives, and so because we know that our special ed students also need a lot of manipulatives, and so we're trying to provide them some visual manipulatives, not only digital, but we're actually creating little kind of like bags where we're putting in the material, and we're basically going to issue them out to the students so that the students will be able to have the counters and those kinds of things that they need. And so the special ed department is working on that right now. When we come to speech, and if you want to just go over to speech real quick. When we come to speech, we're actually offering it the same way. Basically, those services will be done remotely. We do have a lot of resources, digital resources. Again, one of the things that we heard our parents say that it was difficult for them in the spring for them to be able to work with the student at home on speech, on the speech lessons. And so one of the things that we did was we actually went ahead and we're getting the videos where the parents can actually watch a video and they can actually see, okay, you need to form your mouth this way, and that way they can kind of watch the video and then be able to instruct the student, even though they're going to be able to see it asynchronously because we're going to post the video for the student, then the parent will have that capability of saying, okay, now I understand how the mouth has to be or where the tongue needs to be in order for them to do that. And so those sources, again, we're putting them up, and so they will be available to our parents as well. The last thing, and it's not, oh, maybe it is. I think I got Nicole to do that, and maybe not. We might have, oh no, we did it through another link. And so I think we put it on the JISD, right? So if you look at JISD real quick, I think I put a little, yes, there it is. And so the other pieces that we have been getting questions on is on dyslexia and about 504. And so we wanted just to make sure that people understood that, yes, we're continuing with our dyslexia services. We're doing it through remote learning. And again, we have different ways that we can actually approach the dyslexia learning for the students. So what we do is that we use the multisensory instructional tools, and so the one main program that we use is Take Flight, and those are interactive lessons that we do. We're also using Smart Learning Suite, and again, Canvas, Zoom, Google Classroom, all of those are available, again, for our dyslexia teachers or our dyslexia students. And again, the student's progress is going to be measured just like we measured any other, modification or accommodation that we do, and so we'll keep track with exactly how the kids are doing it. The sight word decoding and the dibbles are still going to be used on a weekly progress so that we can continue the measurement of, okay, how are we doing with our frequency of words. And then the last one is 504. Just to let you know that we are going through all of our 504 documents at the campus. That's kind of the direction that was given to all the campus principals and APs. We're going through every single one of them. We're now using Frontline. And so Frontline is basically keeping as a record of our 504s. So through the 504s, through Frontline, we'll be able to actually, the teachers will have clear access to the 504 folders. And so we'll be able to look at their accommodations and modifications, and based on, again, individual students, and that's how we will be able to service the students. And again, it's difficult to answer a special ed student or even a 504 student because it's about that individual student. And so based on what the individual student needs, then that's how we're going to be able to help them. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Robinson, I realized that since the students were so abruptly finished up the school year, a lot of IEPs toward the end of school weren't able to be completed, right?
So right now we are actually, we started working in the month of June and July and started testing the students, and then we got that order that we had to stop because we couldn't bring the students in. Then we said, you know what, we're going to try to work around it, and so we have been working around it. So we have been testing a lot of our special ed students, a lot of our dyslexia students. So right now, we're trying to catch up with all the testing that's going on. One of the things that we did talk to the principal about was that they really needed to look at their IEPs and really clearly define what is the student need based on the data. And so a piece that we got, and I forgot to mention this, is that we actually got 2 programs. At the elementary level, we got a program that's called M-Class. And so that M-Class is going to actually assess the students, and they'll be able to tell us exactly where the gaps are. And so based on those gaps and based on that data, then we'll be able to make better decisions on the IEP. At the secondary level, they didn't have that, so we got another program that's from the Renaissance, and it's called Freckle. And so I got to remember all of these things. It's called Freckle, and so basically it's going to do the same thing. It's going to be able to assess the students, look at the gaps, and then we'll be able to truly understand where are the gaps and what is it that we need to close. So we're going to deal with the data, and we're going to help the kids all that we can.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And then, yes, ma'am.
Who's going to answer my question about the virtual and the in-person? I'm stuck there.
The virtual and in-person,
Okay, about the 2 session, the 2,
the 2 instructional programs.
yes.
Okay.
Who's
Ceci,
answering
do you want to
that for
take
me?
that?
Yes, ma'am. So specifically, parents.
How is the teacher going to do that? That's what I'm trying to get to. How's that going to be done?
Okay, so there are different models that every campus is putting into place. There are some oh, I'm sorry, may I remove this? Okay. Thank you. So there are some opportunities where teachers will be assigned a virtual-only classroom or a face-to-face classroom. But there are some opportunities where that won't be an opportunity. There are some instances where that won't be an opportunity. And let me give you an example. For example, a music teacher. A music teacher would be a singleton teacher at an elementary campus. For the students that choose to come face-to-face, those students would receive a music specials rotation at the elementary. But what we're doing is we're putting together a plan to make it easiest on the teacher. So here's what we're doing with music. For example, Mr. Witt and the principals and we discussed, and Ms. Robinson, how can we make it easiest so that the music teachers can pre-record lessons and place their modules on Canvas? So for all the students who will continue with the virtual learning option once we all come back, those students will look at their modules. Music will be offered asynchronous only for the students who are taking J-Learning at home. Then, for the music teachers who are there at campus, they will have the opportunity to participate in the specials rotation, because what they're doing is a small group is pre-recording all of the kinder lessons in music. That applies to the TEKS, because that's another thing. We still have to teach 100% of the TEKS. Then a small group of music teachers, all they're going to focus on is pre-recording the first grade lessons and second grade lessons and third grade, so that they're not actually encompassing all of the virtual learning for K through 5, but they are encompassing all of the face-to-face K through 5. So that's a circumstance where a teacher is going to have to do both. But the district's already working with the directors and the people who oversee specific programs to ensure that we make it as feasible as possible for a teacher to be able to provide both sections.
How would they do it? Okay, maybe I'm not, hold on. Okay, I have a feeling I'm not understanding something, because what I'm envisioning is, the day starts, and say you have a class with 15 students, and 10 of them, they come into the class, okay, and then you have 5 that they're only going to do virtual. So the day starts, right? So the teacher comes in the classroom, right, for the 10, right? Okay, then how are they instructing the 10 plus the 5? Are they doing it simultaneously? That's what I'm trying to find out.
instances that may be possible, but in many instances, not. Because asynchronous learning means that the teachers would pre-record their lessons.
Okay.
So the music teachers, like these, we have 20 music teachers in elementary.
Let's not do music. Let's do math. Let's do
Okay,
math.
so a math teacher could pre-record a lesson and just place the module there, work collaboratively with other teachers so that he's not recording the entirety of the lesson,
Okay.
and place it on the Canvas module so that a student could just log in at any time. And that is what asynchronous learning is.
But they're supposed to log in by 3 o'clock in the afternoon in order to get credit for the day, right?
No, not for us. Actually, TEA says they have a 24-hour period. So for us, it's actually until midnight, 11:59 p.m. And so if a student, let's say, for example, a student, we're going to offer live virtual instruction at 9 a.m. for math. That's an example, okay? The student does not log on, but the student can still be counted present remote asynchronous if they log into Canvas and show progress by submitting an assignment, completing a daily checkpoint, or
those three choices.
Those three choices I talked about earlier, they would be marked present, they would show student academic progress, and it can all be tracked and through our Canvas system. Or they can just show up to the face-to-face live virtual instruction. So it's options, and that's one option. The other option are pre-recorded lessons. The other option is we can have a cart and a camera so that teachers can be teaching the students who are face-to-face, as well as the students logging in virtually at home. So depending on the grade level, depending on the content area, whether they're singleton teachers or not, the situation, and depending on how many students have selected virtual learning versus face-to-face, all of that is going to play into a factor as to how a teacher is going to provide instruction. Yes, it's a little bit more than before, but that is the situation that we're facing.
So if I'm the one of the 5 that's at home doing it only virtually, and I start doing my my work, and I run into an issue, will I have an option to contact just my teacher or any of the teachers in the math department, depending on who might be free?
That student would be assigned to their teacher of record.
Okay.
And so in Canvas, there's going to be a big red button in the template that we're going to provide to teachers that's called group discussion. And a student can log in and say, hey, I'm having trouble. That's one way. That's doing it asynchronously at their own time. The other way is I'm going to log into my 9 a.m. class every morning and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And they'd be able to interact with the teacher in real life time. The other way is the teacher will have office hours. The office hours are not a requirement, but they're certainly there for the teacher to be available. And one more option that I forgot to mention earlier, and I don't want to forget to say it. We're in the process of putting together an instructional hotline that will be available in the evenings. And so that's going to be yet another support for students. So there truly is a variety of supports that were not present in March. And so I just can't overemphasize how much different this is going to be than our previous. But it's going to be different, and depending on the grade level, content area, how many teachers and students sign up for what, it will look a little bit different. Did that help?
It definitely helped. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry for trying to be devil's advocate, but I'm just envisioning different questions that are going to be coming at us, because sometimes people won't ask here, but as soon as we leave out of here, our phones start blowing up.
Absolutely. And Ms. Eden, just to let you know that actually this past week, we had a sample lesson just because we wanted to see kind of what it was going to look like, and we're looking at different cameras. And so we actually had one of our math teachers over at Judson do a Zoom lesson for us. And so there were some of us that were in the classroom, and she was instructing us, and there were some of us that were doing it virtual. And so because of the camera that we were using, and actually it turned out to be a document camera. And so, yeah, we just happened to hook it up to a laptop, and so the only thing that we discovered is that we're going to have to buy some carts that we can move around. And so, so we're looking at that right now, and actually, I think we got a cart in yesterday or today that we're actually looking at to see whether that's possible. But it's going to be dependent on the different classrooms and the different needs. And so, it's, again, like I say, it's hard to give, just like I can only put, so many students in this classroom when at Where the Mokes, the classrooms are so much bigger. So every school is different, and so people just need to understand that it's hard for us to be specific about a number or a way, because different people are going to have to work it differently depending on the situation at their campuses. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
You had bilingual on there? I don't know if you want to do that on the book.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
I'd like to recommend, Dr. Ball, that we just have like about a 5-minute break. Thank you. The time now is 3 o'clock.
Siesta time. Thank you. And I promise we're almost done with the instructional portion of this. Oh, sorry. And so one part of the instructional plan is that we have to specifically identify the supports for students who receive special education services as well as our English language learners. And so just similar to the table that Ms. Robinson shared with the supports for our students who are receiving special education services, we have developed a plan with our teachers who are working with our EL students. And of course, we understand that the eligibility and reclassification of assessments for limited English proficient students still remains. And of course, similar to an IEP, students who receive EL services have something called an LPAC that also identifies instructional accommodations as they're learning their target language. With that, here in Judson ISD, we offer a dual language program. In 4 of our campuses, we offer a one-way model, and this is where students are learning one language, mostly your EL students that are trying to learn the target language of English, as well as the two-way model, the two-way dual language model, where you have a mixture of students whose target language is English and a mixture of students whose target language is Spanish. And so similarly, the type of support for our teachers involved a specific training where we have taken a look at that framework and we have modified it so that it could also work virtually. Specifically similar to what I explained earlier, what we were doing with music, Ms. Richardson, Director of ELL, is working with the EL teachers so that they don't have to be doing both at the same time, but they can figure out a rotational schedule where they can also do pre-recorded modules in Canvas so that students can access. Again, trying to lighten the load in areas where some of the teachers we know are singletons on their campus, and they have to be able to offer both. So this is the, and then of course at the secondary we have our ESL program, English as a Second Language. That is the program that we offer for our EL students, and our teachers are going to be working collaboratively to make sure that our students receive the tutorials that they need, the supports that they need, the linguistic accommodations that are identified in their LPAC. And so with that, we have our materials designed specifically to accommodate those two learners. Now, those two types of learners. The plan actually goes into a lot more detail. If you read the entirety of the plan, we have a plan for students who are receiving dyslexia services, gifted and talented services. So all types of special populations must be taken into consideration, and a plan for accommodating the virtual learning and accommodating the learner has to be identified within the plan. Again, I'm sharing highlights of the plan. We literally could be here all day to discuss the details of it, and I'd be more than welcome to talk about it all day too. For implementation, this is the last component of the asynchronous learning plan. We have to detail to the state exactly what we're doing to make sure that our teachers have the resources, the support to help our students, and for them to be able to design engaging, robust, rigorous lessons for our students. So I just wanted to highlight the asynchronous professional learning calendar and some of the things that we have done for our teachers. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Oh, I cannot. Well, one of the things, and you've probably already heard of the technology conference, we actually began offering only 3 offerings, and it spread like wildfire, and we are now at 5 offerings, and we're going to continue to offer these, as well as build a repository of pre-recorded lessons for those who are unable to attend, but who would like to learn third-party applications that can integrate to Canvas that can ensure that your presentations are livelier, that can ensure that students can engage with you in a PowerPoint. And so those are the types of things that the technology conference focused on. We're very excited to say that we're focusing on the instructional cycle, and we understand that instructional coaching is very important. We have instructional coaches, which we term academic coaches here in our school district. Last year was our first year, and this summer we were able to bring Jim Knight himself, who is a well-renowned guru on instructional coaching. And so they also specifically discussed elements of virtual learning. Of course, everything has been shifting with COVID-19. Our Canvas training of trainers is occurring right now. Actually, today is the last day, and these group of 100 people are going to be the trainers that will train during the district PD days of August 11th and 12th. So these 100 people are going to be assigned approximately 20 teachers, and they will specifically work and provide a Canvas training of 6 hours, where they will leave having designed one of their modules, one of their courses for their classes. Our new Teacher Academy just also occurred this week, and it also focused, it was completely virtual, so therefore we were modeling for our teachers some of the things that they can do to ensure that we model what we would like for them to do, including polling, breakout sessions, being able to engage with the instructor, and so all of that is very important. So this is just some of the few things that we have done to ensure that our teachers are fully trained and feel well prepared to design instruction on our LMS in Canvas. And finally, the last section of the implementation component of the TA plan, and this is the last section of the instructional plan, has to do with family supports. What kind of family supports do we have available for Judson ISD? Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that would help, huh? So our last piece is on the social, emotional, I don't know what happened to it again, but I think it's just me. So one of the things that we totally understand is that our kids have been at home, and so being at home with the anxiety and trauma and everything that goes along with just being at home and not being able to be the regular normal that we have, we understand that we are going to need that social and emotional support for the kids. So one of the things that we're actually purchasing is called Mindful Practices. And so on that Mindful Practices, when the kids sign in into Canvas, they actually will sign in and do their attendance, and then they'll go into Mindful Practices. And that Mindful Practices is actually going to ask the student about how they feel today. And so basically on how they feel, it'll actually trigger an activity or a strategy for them to do. It's like a 1 minute, 2 minute little strategy that it'll be based on every single individual student. What we truly love about this program is that it captures day-to-day data. So the teacher will be able to see how many students are anxious, how many students are exactly how they're feeling. And so the most important piece of it is that the counselor is going to be able to look at that data, and then she will be able, or he or she, the counselor, will be able to get a small group of students and then do some kind of activity with them so that we can make sure that at the end of the day they are okay and they feel good about themselves, they feel good about their learning, and they're okay to go home. And so, so that's one of the pieces that we're bringing to the table to y'all later on. And so it's great because it really provides, if the teacher feels that there's a lot of anxiousness going on that particular day, it'll actually trigger an activity for the teacher to do whole group with the kids. And this can be done remotely, or it can be done face-to-face. So that's a great piece of it. We also have some other pieces in there, and it's our care team. So you know that our care team was so busy this summer, literally going out home, to do home visits and just literally taking care of our families, taking care of their emotional needs, their social needs, their food needs. It's amazing how many food packages we were able to put together and send out to them, how many times we were able to get them help to pay their light bill or water bill or give them some social services. And so that care team is out there. It's still working. Right now, I have them looking for the last few seniors that have not checked in for graduation, and so I need to make sure that we capture the last of the few seniors that have not fulfilled their last things, and we're trying to get them to make sure they graduate before August the 31st. So that's what I have them doing right now. And so the first day of school, they're actually going to start looking for kids. So kids that don't sign in at the end of 11:59, then the second day we're going to go out there looking for kids and finding out where they are and why they haven't signed in. So the first 3 weeks of school we're going to be pretty busy just looking for kids. That's kind of the way that we're thinking that it's going to happen. And then of course in between we're also looking for our dropouts, because our dropout, we have a September deadline, and so we're going to be looking for those particular kids. We do have a lot of Monica and her group and Renee, they put some great videos together for our parents, and so if you go to the guidance and counseling department, you're going to see a lot of resources, because one of the things that they're doing is they're putting out newsletters, they put out videos out there for the parents and for the staff, and I think one of the most important thing too is that the mindful practices is not only going to be for the kids, it's also going to be for our staff. And so if our staff is not feeling well, is feeling anxious or whatever, then that'll give us the opportunity to work with our staff members as well. So it's not just about kids, it's about staff members. We do have a food drive that's coming up, and because we have a cafeteria that full at France, that we got some food donated, and so we're ready to give that out. We were able to get all the community and schools campuses, all the school supplies have been donated for the kids. And so every school that is a community and school campus, they will get free donations. All the kids will get their school supplies, and so we have that. In addition, this week we were able to get 600 backpacks, and so we are filling them up with school supplies as well. And so all those things are going on. We're still going to continue with our career and college readiness, and just the things that we constantly do. And so we're going to continue with oh God, what was our speaker last year? No, Tish Bush? Consuelo. With Consuelo. So we do have some campuses that are working with Consuelo, and so we are going to continue that work with Consuelo and the families. So family leadership, that's what it is. And so all of those are continuing. We're still continuing to do everything that we have in our plans. And again, to me, the most important piece is being able to get that social emotional gauge on our students and on our staff. That way, whoever needs help, we are there to help. And that concludes my piece.
So just a friendly reminder, we are sharing with you highlights of the back to school guidance document, which we've termed our Return to Learn plan. The first part of that is the instructional portion, and then the second part of that is the operational procedures, which Dr. Fields is going to take over.
Ms. Ceci, the food drive, is it going to be like the one we did at Wagner?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Robinson on that.
Ms. Robinson, on the food drive, do you mind sharing a little bit more, if we have details yet?
Yes, ma'am. Monica Garcia and the social workers are putting the food drive together. So they're packaging the food by so many, and so they're basically going to put it out. They're going to send out a message to some of the families that they know that really truly need the food, and so we'll give out as much as we can, and we'll go as far as we can.
Can you let us know so if some of us want to help?
Absolutely.
Like we did at Wagner?
We will send the flyer, and we'll make sure that you get the flyer.
Thank you so much, Ms.
You're very welcome. Our pleasure.
Quick question, sorry. That sounds louder than I thought it would. That SEL tool, Ms. Robinson or Dr. Wall, can that be used for family? Like, is it open resource where if a parent wants to just get some content?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It is,
Okay.
it is.
That's a-
So
yeah, that's a
it's
great
also
family
going to be
engagement tool.
available for our parents, and so they'll be able to go into the counseling and guidance department, and they'll have a little, just a button that they can push, and they can actually go through the same activities and exercises the kids and the staff go through.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
And just to share, our counselors have done an amazing job. Throughout this whole session, they've been putting out something that's, we call it a s'more. And they've been providing support throughout this whole time, even when we've not been in school. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for sanitizing that. Thank you.
Okay, definitely mine is a brief highlight, open for questions, and I know that there are some questions that you guys have, especially in this area. So the first area that we wanted to talk about was the mask. Teachers, adults on campus will be required to put on masks as soon as they enter the building and in the classrooms throughout the day. And students will also be required to put on masks as soon as they enter the building and in the classrooms, but also on the buses. Now, the students that we're asking to wear masks per TEA are 10 years and up. And for us, most of the kids turn 10 years around the 4th grade. So we're just asking that all kids 4th grade and higher wear masks throughout the day. So when they get on the bus, they'll have to wear the mask. When they get to the school, they'll have to wear the mask. And then when they get to the classroom, they'll have to wear the mask. In addition, for the hand washing portion, when the students get on the bus, they'll have to use hand sanitizer. So the bus driver, as soon as they enter the bus, will give them hand sanitizer to put on their hands. Then when they get to the campus, before they enter the building, they'll have to put on hand sanitizer. Then in the room, each room will have a refillable bottle of hand sanitizer that the students will have to put hand sanitizer on when they get into the room. But the key with the hand washing is that one of the things that TEA recommends is that throughout the instructional day, teachers incorporate some type of break for the elementary level students to go to the bathroom and wash their hands. So that's one of the things that will have to be incorporated in their schedule at the campus, Ms. Eden. And that'll be up to the teachers or the principal, however they deem necessary. But in terms of the mask, that's when they'll have to wear it. In terms of the hand washing and the sanitizing, that's when they would have to do it. Now, I joked earlier, but I did bring the supplies that will be in each of the classrooms. The refillable bottle of the sanitizer, the disinfectant that you can spray and wipe down. There's a big roll of paper towels that you saw Ceci using as well, the gloves, as well as the Lysol type spray that you can spray and kill 99.9% of the germs. But I guess the key that I'm trying to impress here is that the days of being in the classroom, waiting for the custodian to come around and killing your class at the end of the day so you're ready for them, those days are gone. If we really want to keep the classrooms clean, we're going to have to incorporate the teacher and the student's responsibility to wipe down those common areas like the pencil sharpener or the lights throughout the day. And then we'll have the custodians focus on like the restrooms. When the kids flow through, they can come right behind them and kind of disinfect the bathroom as much as they can. Or when they do a transition period at the secondary levels, that they can then get into the stairwells and clean the stairwells to make sure that those are clean as well. Yes, ma'am?
So what you're talking about is that day when we do go back face to face?
Yes, ma'am.
That Wednesday for deep cleaning, is that what you're referring to?
Well, we're not going to,
Or
I
is
want
that
to,
null and void now?
I don't think that that's going to be one of the
Okay.
options going forward.
Okay.
So what we're talking about, just how we model. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
It's everybody's responsibility, just like to keep it clean, just like that team modeled right now. You use something, clean it. Here in the office, what we've done is by the copy machine, we've left supplies there, so you wipe it down, you use a Clorox wipe, so just everybody working together as a team.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Now, in terms of temperature checks, because the next one up there is the thermometer, you're going to hear from a lot of districts that we're going to check everybody's temperature as soon as they come through the front door. I would say that we talked about this as a team, and that's not the recommendation of TEA. What they're saying is that a temperature is sometimes an indicator of something, but not necessarily always an indicator of COVID-19. You could have strep throat or a number of other things. So what they're saying is that definitely you should monitor your temperature, and that's going to be one of our self-screening questions that we have on the self-screening document that we send out to all students and employees in the morning. So I think if we click on here, it'll hyperlink us. There you go. Are you an employee? I think we click no on that one. And then it'll say, put in your first name. See, now, see, you throwing rocks. I'm not gonna put my number in there. You was gonna see how far I go with it? My wife will be like, really? Okay, do you have any of these symptoms? Now, I thought, this was interesting. As you can see, one of the symptoms on here is fatigue, but fever is 100 or higher. So if you have a fever of 100 or higher, then you're supposed to click on here, yes. If no, then you would go through the next one: cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscles, headache, recent loss, sore throat, congestion, nausea, and diarrhea. So if all of those you don't have, then you would simply click yes. If you had one, then you would, if you would click no. If you had one, then you'd click yes. Here, within the past 14 days, have you been in contact with anyone who has COVID? No. Have you been tested positive for COVID? No. Within the past 14 days, has a public health or medical professional told you to self-quarantine? No. So clicking all of those, having just clicked one yes, then what should come back is you're not cleared to come in. Now, once you're told that you're not cleared to come in for employees, I'm going to let Mr. Atkins handle that. For students, then that would go to the principal of that campus. It's incumbent upon them, once they get this list at the beginning of the day, to now go search down those students to determine whether or not if they did truly come in. Because as we go to, let me see if I can get back to the PowerPoint.
Wait, so if a student gets an employee, if they get a no, they're gonna go to the principal then, right?
If an employee gets a no, that notification will go to the principal.
Followed by that person, right?
Ma'am?
Shouldn't that person go to the principal?
Well, that person should check in with their supervisor while simultaneously checking in with employee benefits. But Mr. Atkins is going to go through that a little bit later on.
I mean, rather than them floating all through the building,
It tells them on here they're not supposed to come. Now, will a student, it's not up to the students to fill this out, Ms. Eaton?
Right,
It's
that's
up-
why I said employee, teachers.
No. The parents fill this out for the students is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The students will have to get this done daily, but we're asking the parents to fill it out on behalf of the students unless you're 18 years or older, because the students shouldn't be making this call for themselves. The parents should be making the call for them.
And the parents are gonna fill this out every day?
Daily,
Where?
At
on
home.
at home.
Before they come. This is the
Oh.
screener that will be sent to them daily. It's a requirement by the state, to all staff and all employees. So they fill it out.
I can't hear
before
Mr.
they-
Atkins.
Okay, thank
Excuse me.
you.
This is done before they come to school. Should be done at home. Before they come to school, they'll get an email. They go in and they fill it out. And then if they get an X, they should not come to school. They should call the school or call their supervisor. If they forget, we'll have signs on the door that have a QR code, so they can use their phone, do the same thing. And if they get a red X, they shouldn't go in the building. So it's meant before you get to the campus.
And it'll notify the campus principal as well as the director of a particular department. If you're a child nutrition worker, transportation, or what have you, it goes to that supervisor as well, and they're supposed to follow up. Yes, ma'am. Next is transportation. The key, yes, ma'am. The key with transportation is we really have been working all summer to clean the buses inside and out. And if you were to go to, let me see if I can get to the website. Will this allow me? I'm sorry? Okay, good. If you come to the website and go down to, I'm hoping this continues. Where are you trying to go? Go down to the Judson ISD YouTube dealing.
There it is, bus information?
No, ma'am. Oh, does it have the video? No, not that.
No. Way down at the bottom.
Here we go. The JISD TV, kind of like the YouTube thing. When you click on there, I can tell you our communications department, Brianna and Natalie, have really been, what's this? Oh, so they saw it then, ma'am? Oh, okay, gotcha. You saw Mr. Ballard on there, as well as there's a cleaning one as well. So people can go online and actually view that video that shows how we're cleaning the bus and how we're cleaning the classrooms. But as I said, the parents will have to complete the screening. Then the students would go to the bus stop for those who elect face-to-face. Once they show up at the bus stop, what will be on the door before they get on the bus in English and in Spanish are again the symptoms of COVID-19, asking, do you have one of these? And then we would ask the students that if you have one of those, then you shouldn't get on the bus. But if a student is at the bus stop, especially some of our younger students, you will be transported back to the campus, even if something's going on. And then it'll be the requirement of the nurse or the administrator back at the campus to check in with your parents or put you in a room, isolate you until they can get someone else involved. We won't just leave a student out at the bus stop, if that makes sense. Now, one of the things that's really important about the bus is that because it's airborne, increased air circulation decreases the possibility of transmission on the bus. And keep in mind that we ask that students 10 years old and older wear masks, which means 10 years or 9 years and younger may not have masks on. They are free to wear masks if they can do that throughout the day, but they're not required. So what we're going to do is try and roll down the windows, every other window, to increase in circulation. And if you've ever been on a school bus or been on in a while, remember those things at the top of the bus that you can pop open the vents? That'll increase the air circulation as well. So that's our plan as well. And then we're going to stop students from sitting in the seat directly behind the bus drivers, and then we'll have them sit diagonally, going back, one person to a seat. But if you have, like me and my brother would have been on the bus, both of us can sit in the same seat. I mean, we're sharing the same household. But we're going to try and social distance as much as feasible as we can throughout the bus trips. Let me see. Lunch. And any questions about any of the stuff that I've gone over so far? Okay, excellent. So lunch is next. Now at the elementary level, I would tell you that they've asked, most of them are looking at breakfast and lunch in the classroom because they've mastered the breakfast in the classroom already. And if they did the lunch in the classroom, they could probably master that as well. One of the questions that you had earlier, though, Ms. Eaton, was how do teachers still get their 30 minutes of duty-free lunch if their kids are having lunch in the classroom? I'm going to try and set this stage here, but most of us have been in education for quite some time. When you go to lunch duty, there are a number of students in the cafeteria, and typically about 5 people monitoring that number of students in the cafeteria, not a teacher for every 30 kids in the cafeteria during lunch. So you monitor a wide range of students. In addition, there are a bunch of paraprofessionals on the campus, and we've also just recently added the paraprofessionals associated with the Adventure Club that will get there earlier that could help. So as teachers rotate out, you can have an Adventure Club paraprofessional go in and monitor the class for the 30 minutes while that teacher goes out for 30 minutes. In addition, if you have some of your teachers and those paraprofessionals in the classes or even in the hallway monitoring students at the secondary level, then There could be a group of students that then flow into the cafeteria if this is what the principal deems necessary, where you may have 150 in there at the high school level and a few administrators monitoring the 150 that are in there while all those teachers, right now they monitor 700 per lunch period.
Oh, so 150
Is nothing.
a small number?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
If you were to go to Wagner, their cafeteria fits about, yes, ma'am. And there's a bunch of kids. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So they could easily do that and social distance with 150 people. And then you could put a couple of administrators in there to watch while then those teachers go to lunch for their 30-minute duty-free lunch. So we can get that done. But one of the interesting things about lunch is that we will still serve lunch for the face-to-face. For those students who are not coming face-to-face, we will still offer the curbside service where students can walk up and pick up their meals. In addition, we've partnered with the transportation department where on Monday and Thursday, they will actually go out on those same bus routes that they pick up on, and for those kids who are doing virtual learning, they will drop off a meal package that will give them breakfast and lunch for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Monday, and then they'll come back on Thursday, which gives them breakfast and lunch for Thursday and Friday. So they'll be able to get lunches because a lot of kids can't make it the 5 miles back to the campus and their parents are somewhere else, so then we'll be able to take care of them as well. But that is our plan with the lunch program as well.
I had a question about the lunch program.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the spring, we said that any child under the age of 18 could pick up a lunch. Is that going to be the same policy, or are they going to need to show now proof of enrollment at the school? Or have we
Definitely, the rules have changed, Ms. Rodriguez. We have to do an account for the meals. Otherwise, we won't be compensated. I can tell you that we are still continuing. We checked in with Mr. Atkins and Dr. Ball, and they gave us permission to continue with summer feeding up until we start school. So until the 24th, we'll just still be feeding whoever comes up to those feeding sites. When we start going out to the neighborhoods, then I would say that we're going to ask a student, what's your ID number, what's your name? And then we're going to try and process the payment that way. If a student knows that they don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, we will be there to be able to take payments if necessary on your lunch card. But parents will be able to do that online. But I don't see us seeing a student walk up needing something to eat and us saying no. I know that makes Mr. Atkins cringe a little bit, but I don't see it happen.
Will you also speak about the additional CPE campuses?
Yes, ma'am. We have what's certified eligibility program where we have campuses that automatically qualify for free breakfast and lunch. It's about 14 elementary campuses and about 6 secondary campuses. I can read you which ones they are. If you would anybody like to hear those? Okay. But at those campuses, everybody qualifies for free breakfast and lunch. So all we'll need is just proof and verification that they're a student within Jetson ISD, and we'll be compensated for that. Any other questions about anything? All right, next up is what happens if a student or an employee gets exposed to COVID-19, and Mr. Atkins is going to handle that. You need me to wipe this down for you there? Oh, good.
So this is, I know, a question that most people have, and there are thousands of scenarios. And it's kind of like the special ed IEP that Becky talked about earlier. We have to look at each one of them a little bit different. But I'm going to start with the easy ones. So if we test positive, that's easy to determine. We have a positive test. What happens? So if I'm a parent, a staff member or a student, if I get that positive test and I'm not on the district property, please don't come. Please call your supervisor. Don't drive there and tell them in person. Please call the district office and tell them. And once we do that, then employee services for staff will start doing some contact tracing for what happened in the district. Who were you near in the district? Because we need to notify those staff. The nurse at the campus will do the same thing for a student that tests positive. Who were you near the last 2 days? And so then we start notifying them. Then they won't be allowed to return to the campus until they meet all 3 of these requirements: 20 hours with no fever, without medication, symptoms have improved, and 10 days quarantine since the onset of the symptoms. So they have to meet all 3 of those. Or, this is big, or they get a negative COVID test, or they have a doctor's, oh no, those are symptoms, I'm sorry. Those are symptoms. They have a doctor's note that talks about the alternative diagnosis. So if they test positive, they've got to stay out pretty much the 10 days. And they have to be cleared to come back.
Those are 10 work days?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Excuse me?
10 work days as opposed to...
It's 10 days is the guidance we got latest from TEA.
Okay.
So, on the student that tests positive, again, they have to complete the 10-day quarantine, 24 hours free of fever without medication, and they have to be cleared by a medical professional or the nurse to come back to campus. So that's a positive test for a student. So symptoms, and these two, if you have one of those symptoms, it's pretty easy to determine that that happened. Again, stay away from district property. If you're on district property as a staff member, leave immediately, contact your supervisor. If you're a student, we're going to put you in isolation, contact your parents, and then you would be able to return to work as a staff member, again, if you met all 3 of the requirements: 24 hours with no fever, without medication, symptoms improved, 10 days onset of initial symptoms, or a negative COVID test, or a alternative diagnosis from a medical doctor that explains the symptoms. For students, they can't return to school until completion of 10-day quarantine, 24 hours free without medication, and cleared by a medical professional or the nurse. So those are kind of the ones that are easy to determine. I think the ones that people really get concerned about is exposure. And so right now, and the definition seems to change, right now the definition of exposure is I was exposed to somebody who had a positive COVID test, and I was either exposed to secretions fluids, such as a cough without a mask, or I was in close contact, which is within 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes without a mask. So those are the ones that get real tricky, and so there's a little bit of investigation that has to go on. And of course, we're going to err on the side of caution. Again, when it comes to staff, if you think you've been exposed, again, stay away from the property, contact your supervisor, contact employee services. Employee services will then go through a flow chart and a questionnaire and determine whether close contact has happened. If it's determined close contact has happened, then you're going to be quarantined, and you won't be coming back to work until you're quarantined for 10 days, free of fever for 24 hours without medication, and cleared by employee services to return to work. For a student, again, stay away from the district. If you're on the district property, again, we're going to put you in isolation. We're going to contact the parent. We're going to have the nurse do the investigation to see, was close contact, did it happen? If it is, again, quarantine for 10 days, fever-free for 24 hours, and cleared by the nurse or a medical professional to return to school. And so those are really the three conditions. And so we're going to see them in all different forms throughout the deal. And I know some of the questions are, so I'm a teacher, I test positive. I'm in elementary school, I'm in this class 6 hours with 10 kids, 12 kids. We're going to consider that close contact, and we're going to quarantine the class, right? Teacher in the class. And then we do some contact tracing. Who else did the teacher talk to? Who were they exposed on the campus? If it's a high school teacher, say, and I test positive, and I was in my class, and every class that came through there for an hour, we would probably err on the side of caution and say, we're going to quarantine you. But we wouldn't necessarily quarantine the other kids and the other teachers that those kids went to unless they started exhibiting symptoms or one of those got a positive test. So again, it comes down to some individual investigation when it comes to exposure. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about students and teachers who test positive, and we're not requiring a negative test in order for them to return to campus.
They do not have to bring a negative test back as long as they meet those conditions.
Because one of the things that we're seeing, unfortunately, is that people can feel better and they're not exhibiting those
Symptoms.
those symptoms, those things, and yet they're still testing positive. And so I do have a concern about that. Is this the TEA
Yes.
regulations that we're following?
Yes, ma'am. This is the
Okay.
TEA regulations.
Okay.
Is it the mandatory regulation, or is it a best practice minimum regulation that we have to meet? Does that make
These are
sense?
the TEA, I'm going to call it guidance.
Okay.
We could go above this,
Okay.
but it might be hard for some staff and parents to get negative test and could put them out of work for long times or out of school for long times.
To get a negative test or to get the testing?
Kind of both. Because the testing takes a while, you got to schedule it, and then you got to wait 5 to 7 days to get a result.
So the determining factor of if the teacher or the child returns to work or school would be that they've quarantined at home for those 10 days,
Quarantine, no fever,
no fever.
and really no
Which means that they're
symptoms.
taking their own temperature.
Yes, ma'am. And really no symptoms, because if they have any symptom, then they fall back into the symptom category. So, I mean, I know we say fever, that's just because that's kind of what the guidance is, but really, if you have any symptoms, you shouldn't come back until you're cleared by a medical professional. Correct.
Not just fever, but any of those symptoms.
Yes, ma'am. Other questions?
It is a concern.
It is. This is a tough one for everybody.
Well, if we actually had the type of rapid testing that, we were promised that would be available for every person, it wouldn't be so difficult to make this decision.
Yes, ma'am.
And to clarify, we will still be, our plan is to have the majority of our students not even come to school, have the option to come to school until September 25th, and we still can extend that. Our most needy students will have the option, but we
Right.
can extend that.
Right. So it could be later, but at the first possible opportunity, I think it was September 28th, if I remember. So that would be the first possible opportunity.
And I think just to clarify, right now, I don't think TEA has a requirement or a date or anything where people have to come back physically. I think for this year, they're going to allow virtual if that's what you choose all year long.
And then, oh, sorry.
No.
And then I know that the city of San Antonio was planning on maybe releasing some guidelines for like benchmarks we need to hit to feel safer returning to school. But I have not seen those. Did they decide not to release those yet?
Well, last night I did log on to the town hall. I did not see it all complete, so it went rather late. But when I was seeing it, I did not see the benchmark dates, numbers. I did see their plan in regards to the red, yellow, and green, or I might have it wrong colors, but, okay. But they did not, they keep saying the big total of 5% or lower, but they didn't say the incremental parts of it. But I know that they they're working on it. One other thing that I did want to mention is that at the regular board meeting, we are bringing for approval for the board the waiver that we have to apply for. So we're prepared if that be the case that we need to do.
One
Yes,
question
ma'am.
I have, because this is something that even in the courts has been a part of emergency orders that those of us that practice in the courts, and that is what, if any, guidance have we been given as it relates to people over the age of 65 or who have underlying health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension?
So that's my part. That's next.
Is it on?
Okay.
You know what? Nicole, I think, has that slide, so I'm just, give me 1 second, and then we'll pull up that one slide. But I'm going to go back to I think Ms. Eaton had a question about the waiver. Yes, so the waiver asks, the TA asks each school district that if you're going to continue to be out, to file a waiver. So we're bringing that to the board on August the 20th so we can be prepared if in case we need to do that.
I'm sorry, and the waiver would be?
To allow us to continue to be virtual.
Okay. So we're just getting it so that we'll be prepared.
Right.
So that you guys will be in a position to move forward if necessary.
Right. So we know right now we're starting virtual. We could go virtual all the way up until September the 25th, but then we still have to look at it and see how are things progressing at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think Nicole actually has another slide for me, but I could be wrong. But by the time we get her,
I have a question, Dr.
Sure.
Ball.
Mhm.
So when we first talked about the different types of learning that our students would be able to do, we talked about in-person, face-to-face. We talked about virtual, and then we talked about a different plan for secondary, which was the staggered learning. And so we're finding that we're not going to be able to offer that after all.
right, we were calling it a hybrid. Mhm. And we found in regards to truly scheduling and doing that would cause some difficulties. So we found that probably would not be beneficial. So we are going to just two options, the face-to-face or the virtual.
I just wanted to make sure that was out there so that parents and people who are listening know. It's difficult enough to schedule virtual and face-to-face, much less adding that third one in.
Right.
So our campus will be open, all campuses will be open every day once we open for face-to-face learning. There will be no days that are closed.
Correct.
Every Monday through Friday except for holidays, campuses will be open.
Yes.
Okay.
Once we do open. Yes. Bill, go ahead. Yes, if you have, yes. So what this information is in regards to, let's say you do have a condition or an illness, okay? So when we're talking about people returning, there are some things that you could qualify to possibly not return. So our benefits department is handling this right now. So you could either go on emergency paid leave, paid sick leave, or Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act. So what we wanted to provide to you right now is those criteria that a person would have to qualify for. So, oh, there they are. Awesome. So here we go. So if a person does have something from their doctor, then they would be filing the correct paperwork for their leave. So right now, currently, I think we have 25 individuals. No, go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so this is the sick leave in regards to if you've been diagnosed, those kind of things. We also have regular ADA accommodations. We have had 25 requests for those. We've had 5 that have turned in medical certification. And so we act on those individual and see if we can accommodate them, whether it's at home instruction or in a separate classroom with no contact or something like that. This would apply if somebody actually got exposed to it or met one of those criteria.
So I think that that's what you were referencing, right, Ms. Rodriguez?
No, Lynette Perez had asked about
for
anyone that might have an underlying health issue that the health officials are saying fall into a vulnerable population category. So those who, for example, are over the age of 65, those who have diabetes, high blood pressure, those scenarios. Is it through the ADA accommodation that was just referenced, or is there some other response or guidance that's been provided for those scenarios?
Right, so Bill's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 2 of them that you could apply for, either the ADA or the Family and Medical Leave Extension Act, if I have that all correct.
There's a couple different ways, and we'll go back and we'll start. The first one is there's the regular FMLA that they can use. It's unpaid. The second one is the ADA accommodation. Has to be medically certified, and we have to be able to accommodate it. The EFLMLA is the only reason that you qualify for it is if you have a minor child that has COVID or you have to watch because the daycare's closed and they can't get daycare, and that is a paid leave for 10 weeks. Yeah, that's that one. Yes, ma'am. The way they drafted it, it's 12 weeks. So you could choose to use the sick leave the one up above that for the first 2 weeks, and then you could use this for an additional 10 weeks.
Thank you.
So now we'll talk about some of the next steps. So I know we have a slide. If somebody doesn't mind, we'll go to the next steps, and we could still entertain other questions, but so some of the next steps that we have planned is, of course, the communication to our community and our communication to our staff. Biggest thing is to continue to monitor the guidance from Metro Health and the information that we receive as to how COVID continues and if it declines or not. Of course, the decisions we make, have to be fluid depending on the situation, the guidance, the mandates that we get. All of this is subject to change as this has constantly been changing. I mentioned about the submission of the waiver. We would do that. Continue with the preparations that we continue to make on a daily basis. So I'd like to open it up for any questions the board members might have.
Dr. Ball,
Yes, ma'am.
how much PPE did they actually send us? I know they keep coming on saying, oh, we got plenty, we send it to the school districts, so.
Yeah, can I ask Mr. Atkins to see if he knows exactly how many face masks, shields, and,
I don't need exact numbers,
Oh.
but do you all feel that with what they sent us, is it adequate for our current staffing?
It's enough to get us started, just so you know. We've delivered or will deliver before Friday 1,600 disposable masks, 14,000 reusable masks, 1,800 gallons of hand sanitizer, 124 thermometers, and 3,500 face shields. That's not everything, but what we did is we took each school, we got the number of classrooms, the number of staff, the number of students. The hand sanitizer is the big one that we want to make sure we keep supplied. The mask, we believe most people should have those, but we do want to have them there. Gets broken or somebody just really can't afford one, we'll provide a mask. We'll make sure they get that. Face shields for kiddos or adults who want to wear one or need to wear one if they're doing some speech therapy or something like that where they need to see their mouth. The gloves are on back order, so we're hoping to get gloves, but we have some in our warehouse already. Yeah, our goal is to try and keep PPE available to all the campuses and buildings in the district.
yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ball, talk to us about the acrylic shields that are like we have at the receptionist desks.
Yes.
Will each campus have those?
What we're really moving towards, so to be able to cover more individuals, are the face shields. That everybody would, excuse me, I shouldn't say everybody, but whoever feels that they need one or wants one would have a face shield to be able to wear. So it becomes his or her face shield that they would be wearing.
I see. So it would be a face shield instead of?
Yes, ma'am.
I see.
Mhm. I would really sincerely like to commend my senior staff for their work. This has been challenging and difficult, but these individuals are amazing individuals. To start with my two deputy superintendents, Ms. Becky Robinson, thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Fields, thank you so much. Y'all support is amazing. Marco Garcia, thank you so much. Ceci Davis, thank you. Our newest member to senior staff, Dr. Nicole Taganoff, thank you so much. Steve, Mr. Atkins, hope I'm not forgetting anything, but this job would be impossible without you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To this board, I know for a fact that I am the luckiest superintendent to have the most supportive board. Thank you so much. To the teachers that are watching, the last count was 566, so I know a lot of people are watching. I know that it is scary. I know that there's so many emotions, but we are committed to keeping you safe. We are committed to doing the right thing for you. We want to help you, but at the same time, we know that there are students out there. I know that our students need us, and I strongly believe that in working together, we can meet the needs of our staff and our students. We can get through this. We are getting through this, and we will get through this. I believe Judson ISD is going to be and is a better school district because of this. So thank you, Madam President.
Absolutely, Dr. Ball, and thank you. Thank you to you, your leadership, your staff, to everyone. Thank you very much. There's so many questions. We heard 14 comments that Dr. Fields read of teachers who are very concerned, do not wish to return. They want to go, they want to start at home. And of course, that's understandable. But the thing is, you all have taken all of this summer to decide and figure out how it's going to look. We've been asking over and over and over, what's it going to look like? And it changes every day, and it still will change. But again, I just would like to say, on behalf of all of us, I suppose I can do that. Thank you very much. Okay. Certainly, Ms. Canoyer.
I also want to ask our parents who are listening to give us a little grace as we work through this. There is no model to follow. There is no blueprint that's been given to us. And I've seen comments about, you had all summer to do this, but really we didn't, because every time we planned something or worked on something, something changed. The governor's orders changed. TEA commissioner's orders changed and then changed again and then changed back. And we are truly, truly concerned about the safety and welfare of everyone in our community. So thank you so much to those of you who've reached out. I know personally I've gotten messages from those who support our efforts, who understand the difficulties we're going through. And I just hope that the other parents can see that we are trying to accommodate not just your household, but every single household that we have. And as many households as we have is as different as each household is. So we're absolutely doing the very best we can. We do want to continue to hear from you, because things have come up that we weren't aware of, or things come up that we may not have thought of. And so please continue to reach out to us. I know I'm in contact with a lot of you on social media, but also through our emails. Thank you, and again, please give us a little bit of grace as we go through this.
At this time, we will move to item 6, closed session, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Discuss personnel report and updates, including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. The time now is 4:12. We will go into closed session. The time now is 4:37, and we will reconvene into open session. Consider and take possible action regarding items discussed in closed session, personnel report, updates including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll start with a roll call vote. Ms. Perez?
Lynette Perez, aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. King?
Shatanya King, aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. This motion has been moved, seconded, and unanimously voted. The time now is 4:38, and we move to adjourn.